Today's episode and every episode is brought to you by the Gathering of Fools, Ambassadors of Bourbon. Thank you for everything you do to help us get the best bourbon right here in the studio. We are also brought to you by Valley Wine Cellar. Valley Wine Cellar has the best wine selection and the best craft beer selection out of anywhere in the Ohio Valley. So don't forget, they are still open for takeout, and go support your local business. We are also brought to you by Empowered Yoga. Empowered Yoga is accompanied by my friend Amanda Gill, and she will have an active in-person studio once everything gets cleared up with all this corona nonsense. But for now, she's doing online classes. They're actually videos that you can purchase or rent. I think she might have a free thing on there too. I'm not really positive about that. I've only done the pay-for ones. But well worth it, and while you're on quarantine, you got to do something to get in shape. Even though the quarantine is about to let up, you still can't go to a gym. So you need to go ahead and sign up for these classes. It's something you can do at home, very easy, very cheap. And to go look at those, you can go to vimeo.com/empowered yoga online. Vimeo.com/empowered yoga online. You can also check out more information for Empowered Yoga at their Facebook, which is obviously just Empowered Yoga. You can also go to empowered.yoga on Instagram. All right, today's episode was awesome. We had Steve Bolger back in the studio for a bourbon tasting, but we were joined by Jeff Sommers, who is absolutely one of our best friends. We would say Steve got me into bourbon, Jeff got Steve into bourbon. We had some excellent bourbon choices. We had a lot of fun. You can probably tell by the middle of it, we're getting pretty buzzed up. We tell quite a few jokes, ripping on each other, ripping on other people, and we just have a lot of fun. I really hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, here's Steve and Jeff. Another episode, another tasting. We have Steve back in the studio and a special guest, Jeff Sommers. How you doing, Jeff?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you.
So I can honestly say I now feel like a regular because I was just referenced as just Steve.
Steve Bolger.
No, I like it. I'm sure anybody out there who's listening will be like, oh, God.
Here we
Steve
go again. These guys are just going to get drunk, and it's going to be a menagerie. But a little about Jeff. Jeff is also probably one of my influencers in bourbon. We talk quite often. You just sent me a link to a little, a newsletter, basically?
It comes out randomly.
Okay, yeah.
It's all about bourbon.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So he decided to join us last minute, and he brought two nice bourbons. I don't really know much about either, but we'll just go ahead and actually we'll wait till we get to the tasting for that. But funny story. So we all know I donated from listening that I donated a bottle to the country club of Four Roses. Well, Jeff is the president of the board.
For about 5 more days.
For about 5 more days?
Yes.
Yeah. So Jeff really thought it was a nice donation, and then he said, you heard the podcast?
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. Boy, that was really nice of Dave to bring such a nice bottle here and donate it to the club. And then I listened to I don't know if there's a first or second one, and you were telling Steve, I really didn't like the bottle that much, so I thought I'd just donate it to the club. And after the fact, some time went by, and you realized, shit, I really do like that, and I gave it away.
Right. I realized it that night, drinking it there.
Okay.
I was like, son of a bitch. I just gave it to him.
I got quite a kick out of that.
Yeah.
This I just don't like this Four Roses.
Right. Well, and the thing was, I knew it was a good bourbon. Apparently, I thought my palate didn't like it, but apparently my palate had adapted at that point.
Yeah.
So another funny thing, actually, about the country club, one of the girls that works over there, she was in the liquor store looking for bourbons and whatnot, and I told her, I was pointing out these different ones to her, and she was like, if you don't have Blanton's, I don't think I'm going to get anything. I'm like, there's a lot of good bourbons besides Blanton's, right? and we have some of them here. I was like, seriously, this one, I just think she was like, you don't know bourbon. I'm like, all right. It's like I was like, that 4 was single barrel. I don't know how that's went for you, but I donated the bottle. A lot of people like that. And she was like, no, people don't like 4 Roses. I'm like, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Starting with a little Buffalo Trace.
Yes. It's becoming my go-to. I think I've mentioned that before.
I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
It's obvious by the amount that's left in your half gallon.
Well, and I had the small bottle too.
I couldn't throw my half gallon away.
Yeah, I can't.
I put it underneath my bar because I'm anticipating if I can't get another one and I get a couple small ones, I'll fill it back up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I keep having a hard time throwing away any bottle right now, especially the Buffalo Trace ones. They just have such good bottles.
Yeah.
Like I might be able to throw that Weller away because it's kind of a plain bottle, but the Eagle Rare, the E.H. Taylor, Buffalo Trace, Blanton's. I mean, the Blanton's. I can't see myself throwing one of those bottles away. I'm gonna end up like some weird hoarder.
Oh yeah. No, I have yet to throw one away. I won't say how many I have empty. There might be someone on this podcast that might know that, but we're gonna leave that information out.
So my question is, where do you keep them?
In the garage, in a special box.
Garage.
It's a big box.
Yeah,
It's actually it's shaped like a car, and it's just got one of those car covers over it.
So Pam did a little research on this, and there are some people, some unbelievably creative people that have done some neat things with empty Blanton bottles.
Really?
They've made like chandeliers out of it, some other artwork type pieces. So that's kind of where the direction we're going with it. We're just trying to figure out what exactly we want to do with it first.
Okay, yeah.
So
well, that's cool.
Yeah, so at least they're not going to just collect dust.
Oh, nice. He pulled that up. Let's see what we got here. Well, oh, there's a nice. That's cool. That's really cool. I like that a lot. I use mine as bookends, and I'm running out of books. I don't have that many. Start using them as Blu-ray ends. Separate my Blu-rays.
And I took my quarter zip off so you could see my shirt, because this would be another idea. You could stack all the Blanton's bottles up into the state of
Kentucky.
Yes.
Yeah, very nice. Blanton state of mind.
I never noticed that. I did not know that was the state of Kentucky.
Yes.
Did you watch that documentary?
I did.
Yeah. Did you love it?
Yes. So I kind of went a little bit off the deep end last night.
I saw when I woke up this morning, it was like almost 12 o'clock. You messaged me.
So I watched Straight Up first, which is another bourbon documentary all about Kentucky bourbon. And that was on Prime Video. Then Neat, also on Prime Video. That was my second documentary. Neat was much better.
Yeah.
Loved Neat.
I really love Neat.
And then, as if that wasn't enough, I ended up watching Bourbon Tucky, which I had already seen, I think, at least once, almost twice.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So it was about 3.5, close to 4 hours of nothing but watching bourbon documentaries.
Now, did you have a glass in your hand for most or all of that?
I lasted about halfway through the first, and then I got a glass.
Okay.
First started out with one on the rocks, and then it moved quickly to once Neat was on. I was like, oh, I got to have it neat.
Right. It's in the name.
Yes.
When I watched that documentary, I think I had been drinking a little bit too, and I was like, I'm moving to Kentucky. There's no way I'm not moving to Kentucky.
It's funny you say that because I had Pam participating in on these, and she was also enjoying some bourbon neat. And one of the comments she made at some point, when can we move to Kentucky?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, they got nursing homes in Kentucky. Let's do it.
Right. Just so you know, if you retire to Kentucky, I'm going to live in your basement or something. All right.
Sounds good.
We'll put the studio down there.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. I love that documentary. It taught me a lot about bourbon. I use it now to help sell bourbon in the liquor store. But I'm not even really doing it to help sell bourbon. I just like talking about bourbon. I'm looking forward to getting to the point where I can really have it like a distinguished palate and I can really talk about it. But I love a lot of the history and things like that, like learning about E.H. Taylor and
right.
That one guy, the guy that does the tastings and tours, the black guy. He's a third generation.
Yes.
He's awesome.
I can't remember his name. I
We
want to
looked
say
him up
Frank.
before.
Yeah,
We looked him
it's
up
Frank
before.
Jennings, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, he's third or fourth generation. I think third. I think
Yeah,
you're
I think
right.
it was third.
And just an amazing story. I wish we had him on our tour. And I mean, we made that comment a couple times. It's like, my God, look at the tour he gave them. We
Yeah.
didn't get that tour when we were there.
Did you guys even get the like where you put
No.
the white dog in the hands and
No.
rub it and
Yeah.
no.
No, none of that.
Yeah,
None of that.
He was very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've since seen a couple other like brief. They do like little. It was on Amazon actually. It's little like 3 or 4 minute interviews with people from the bourbon world, and he was on that. And I keep seeing him pop up on all these things. Like even though what he does is the tours, he's very well known and very liked in the bourbon world.
Sure.
Which doesn't surprise me.
No.
And I love the story with him and his brother and his dad
Yes.
with the bottle of Pappy 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't seen it, have you?
No.
So it's a way I felt in the. Anyway, it's why I drink Benchmark a lot if I'm just having a bourbon at the end of the night, because I like to save the good stuff to share with people. And if I'm sharing with people, I don't care if we polish off a nice bottle. You know what I mean? But that it just reinforced it. In the Neat, he said he was sitting down one time with his dad and his brother, and his dad popped open a bottle of Pappy 20. And he was like, Dad, are you sure you want to open that? Like, that's a really hard to get bourbon now. And he was like, son, they're always going to make good, hard to find bourbons. They're meant to be shared with your friends
Nice.
and family.
Nice.
And I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's perfect.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about that story is 9 months later, both his brother and his dad passed away.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. How crazy is that? I forgot about that part. Yeah. Well, good thing they shared that bottle.
That's right.
That's right.
You get the Pappies, damn it, drink it.
Yeah. So I saw you at the store today. You had
Yes.
your mask on.
I did.
I didn't have mine on at the time. I had just taken it off. But did you see my mask?
Oh, nice.
That's pretty
Very-
cool.
That is very cool.
I
Very
figured
cool.
if I have to wear it for work, because that's a requirement now, I'm going to go ahead and advertise the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Very smart.
Gained a few listeners from the liquor store, too.
Last
Good.
time I was in, you had your Gathering of Fools T-shirt on.
Yeah. Yep. I tried.
I noticed it.
I appreciate that. I had somebody come in one time and they asked. I was wearing it. It was that day actually. I forget who it was though. It was just a customer who I talked about the podcast a few times, and he's like, "Hey, what's the name of your podcast again?" I just looked down at my shirt.
Yeah, pretty soon it's going to be called the Steve and Dave Podcast of Fools.
Yeah. Well, we're looking to try to find some kind of name, because I do a podcast. I put it on the same channel as the one that it's on now, but MMA Fools. So we're trying to come up with a name for like Bourbon Heads or something like that to throw that in the mix too. Maybe get some shirts of that made as well.
Yep.
We're also talking about trying to do an annual party. So like the first annual Gathering of Fools.
Nice.
I think the name just works perfect with that.
Sounds like a reason to drink.
Yeah.
Bourbon.
Yeah.
I should say bourbon.
Yeah. When I figure at that, if we did manage to do that, I would set up 2 mics somewhere, and people could just like randomly jump in on the mic,
Cool.
and we could just edit that up into some kind of mash. I think that.
By the way, that second email I sent you today was a podcast. In case I have never listened to their stuff, but thought
Yeah.
it might be interesting to try.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. I saw it briefly. I was actually at work when you were messaging me. That's why I was kind of in and out. And then when I got home today, I like to clean the studio real nice before people come over. So I didn't get a chance to actually look at it. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. Anything where I can learn more about bourbon, I'm very into. I should have just made this a bourbon podcast to start with. I didn't know I liked bourbon at the time.
It's heading in that direction anyway. So.
Yes.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I guess we can jump into this tasting. Jeff was nice enough to bring 2 bottles. One of them I had just seen for the first time online, but I don't know much about. But I'm going to let Jeff tell you about these 2.
All right. Well, the first one is the I.W. Harper 15-year-old bourbon. A coworker of mine turned me on to that. Said if you ever see it, grab a bottle. It's quickly becoming one of my favorites. And he and I tend to like the same bourbons. We talk a lot about bourbons. He knows a lot about them. So we were at a sales meeting in I forget which city. It might have been Louisville. Drove past the liquor store with my boss at the time. I said, "Hey, let's pull in here, see if they got anything." And sure enough, they had the I.W. Harper.
Oh, nice.
And I said, I got to have a bottle. I think it was maybe $99.
Okay.
So I buy it. I'm thrilled. I got it. I call this other coworker of mine. I said, hey, Tom, I found a bottle. And he said, oh, yeah, where at? Told him about some random liquor store. And I said, $99. He go, oh, that's not bad. He said,
he just wanted me to tell you, make sure you kind of get a little close to the mic.
how's this?
That's good.
Okay. So I said, it was like $99. And he said, oh, well, that's not bad. I said, well, what do you pay? He goes, usually 65 or 70. Like, oh, shit. So I took that bottle to the kind of after party after the sales meeting and had a bunch of my coworkers. We were all in the lobby of our hotel. And sure enough, we drank the entire bottle. And I had maybe 2 small glasses of it. So, I liked it, but I didn't really have a lot of it.
Yeah.
So through my travels, I located another bottle, and this is it. As you can see, it is just been opened. So
Yeah.
I haven't had a lot of it, but really cool bottle. Sort of like a decanter style bottle.
Yeah, for sure.
And, it's 15 years old, so that's quite aged.
Yeah.
The one interesting thing is that the owner of this is the big conglomerate Diego, I think is how you pronounce it, Diego.
Okay.
Anyway, they've got a lot of different brands. And this was it was imported after they bought the label. And I don't know how many years ago that was, but for 20 years you couldn't buy this in the United States.
Oh, no shit.
They brought it back to the United States in 2015. So it's only been around for going on 5 years now.
Nice.
So that's kind of cool. And like I said, I'm not sure that I remember what it tasted like, other than it was pretty smooth. It's an 86 proof, so it's not a high proof bourbon, but the reviews on it are that there's a lot of fruit in it. Apricot is mentioned. I think caramel. Stuff that we tended to lean towards when we first started drinking bourbon. We've gotten into more of the higher proof stuff now with a little more flavor to it. But I wanted to bring this because it's not easy to find. I've actually not seen it in any of our stores or any of the Western PA stores, although it may be there, but I haven't seen it. So
Yeah, I haven't seen it anywhere.
it's about $75, I think, right now. You can get it online. So
Okay.
And it's out of Tennessee.
it's out of Tennessee. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
I had a friend that I made through the liquor store, Joel, and he shared this bourbon group on Facebook with me, and that was the first time I saw that bottle. Somebody had it on there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I'd never heard of it. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to try that.
That'll be a bottle that I keep after it's gone for sure.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's like a decanter, like a nice decanter is
Yeah.
what it looks like.
Yeah, really cool bottle.
So do we taste that now, or do I keep talking?
No, we're gonna go ahead and run through them, then we'll do the
Okay.
tasting. Yeah.
The other bottle I brought is a Widow Jane. It's a 10-year bourbon made up in New York. Manny Manfresca brought a bottle to the golf course a couple years ago and popped it open. We were outside kind of passing the bottle around, and I just couldn't get over how good it was, and I had never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And eventually found it in a store somewhere, and this is probably the third bottle I've bought. But when I found out that you guys were doing a tasting, I asked Steve, or you were already tasting this, I asked him what batch number it was, and his is like, what is it, 167?
167.
And so mine's batch 144. And of all the reviews I've read, the only complaint that I've ever seen is that the taste can differ from batch to batch.
Oh, nice.
And, well, sometimes not so nice.
Right. Well, yeah.
But
yeah.
the
For
two
the
or-
tasting, it's nice.
That's right.
Yeah.
But for the 2 or 3 bottles I've had, I really like this bourbon a lot. So, it's way up on my favorites list. Not everybody's going to tell you that after they taste it, but it's just one that
Suits
I
your
really
palate.
like. It really does. I think it's full of flavor, and I'm interested. I'm real interested to see if there's any variation in the 2 batches.
Yeah.
Both of them are 2019.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
I'm
anyway.
really excited to try it because I've heard of Widow Jane. First, Steve was the first person to tell me that. I think you had brought it up before, and I just did a little research on it and saw that it had some high ratings. And is it out of New York?
Yeah, it's out of New York, and
So-
the big thing is the limestone mineral water that they use to make this stuff is supposed to be, which I think we have in front of us. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 but
So it's an interesting story that I found out, and I was sharing with Jeff earlier with this Widow Jane. So they have a distillery there, obviously, and they've been making their own bourbon, but their minimum age that they want for their bourbons that they're going to utilize for their label is 10 years, and they do not have any of their own bourbon ready just yet. So what this Widow Jane is an actual blend of bourbons that they get from either Indiana, Kentucky, or Tennessee.
Oh.
And the way that they are kind of marketing this is that they're taking the finest whiskeys and they're reviving an old art of blending it. And it's interesting that this comes up because I know last tasting we were doing the High West, and High West has really become a force in the market, and that's all they do is they blend.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I didn't think at first, oh no, blend it like we talked about before.
Yeah.
Like with the blended scotches, like, oh, that's not scotch.
Right, yeah. That's exactly what I heard from everybody. Because my first scotch was the gold label, and I loved it. It wasn't my first scotch, but it was the first one I truly loved. And somebody was like, oh, that's blended. It's not scotch. And I'm like, it says scotch on the bottle.
Yeah. Isn't that false advertising?
Yeah. I feel like I should get at least some of my money back.
I will tell you that I have a flask that I carry in my golf bag only for medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
Or a lot of bad shots. And everybody that I've given this to taste has been like, oh wow, what did you say that was? And they like, can you send me a picture of the bottle when you get home? It's just been it's kind of been a big hit. So
I'm really looking forward to that one.
So just to wrap up on Widow Jane, as you heard Jeff mention the different batches. So I brought the 167. Jeff has the 144, which we know is fantastic. So that's one of the unique things that we're going to do with this tasting tonight is actually have 2 different batches and just be able to compare.
Yeah,
so
I'm excited
don't
for that.
always get that kind of opportunity. And just one other quick side note story. In our first podcast, it just kind of came up that I shared my love of bourbon with Dave, and Dave quickly became what we would be considered somewhere between a bourbon snob and slut.
I'd say more towards slut, maybe.
There's not much he wouldn't do for a good bourbon. But I have to, it's a special treat for me tonight because with Jeff on here, I can say that I can attribute my bourbon
sluttiness.
Yes. For lack of a better word, I was looking for something a little more creative.
You wanted to dig me down in the hole and then bring yourself up, right?
But I can attribute that to him because I was, of course, enthralled with Scotch at the time, and wasn't that I didn't enjoy a good bourbon here or there, but didn't have any idea about Blanton's. He very kind of funny, almost slightly sad trip to Hilton Head. Actually, there was nothing sad about it because that was the discovery of Blanton's, a good friend of ours who lives there.
But real quick, what made it sad? Was there no golf to be had?
No, it was the 11-and-a-half-hour drive home with one of the worst hangovers I've ever had in my life. I was in the car with my mom, bringing her back from Hilton Head. So
you had a lot of plans.
I guess it's not even sad, it's attrition.
She was going to help driving, and 20 minutes into her trip, I hear brakes squealing. We're on interstate. She's slamming on the brakes, and I jump up from a half daze and say, "What's going on?" And she, I think I missed an exit, and so she's taking I said, "We don't have an exit for like 400 miles." So I said, "Pull over. I'm driving." Yeah. And it was, oh God, it was a long drive.
Yeah, that had to be miserable. But worth it for the discovery of Blanton.
Yes. And Ron Johnson lives in Hilton Head. I was down there visiting my mom. We had all gone to dinner. She's got friends down there. I called Ron and Janet to come over, and we had a nice dinner. And some of my mom's friends were coming to meet us after dinner, and Ron said, "Let's go in the bar and have a drink." I said, "Okay, fine." And he said, "Something neat?" I said, "Yeah, you pick it out." And he goes up to the bar and comes back, take a drink. I go, "Oh my God, what is this? It's delicious."
Yeah.
He goes, "That's Bland's." I said, "Oh, what's Bland's?" And that's where it started.
That's where all of our
finished the bottle that night, and the bartender gave me the bottle and the little top. To take home. I put it in my suitcase and brought it home, and I called Steve up and I go, "Hey, I found something we got to try together. You're going to love this stuff." And we have, honestly, since then, been bourbon converts. scotches in the rearview mirror. I mean, we've both got some great scotches at home that are just collecting dust now because, as I say, bourbon's just, to me, it's just easier to drink and tastes better.
I think it's easier to drink. I think it tastes better. I think you get more from it. I think Scotch, a lot of times the peatiness is just it overpowers it.
Yeah, well, I didn't like the peaty scotches, but some of the sweeter tasting, scotches were really good, and we did those for a good while. But bourbon completely overtook the.
Yeah, it was a safe.
And it was that trip.
It was a
sorry, Steve.
No. I wanted you. That's what I was hoping was going to happen.
No, I mean sorry for the bourbon.
Oh well, yeah.
Debacle that you have.
Yeah.
But so basically, you are the cause of all of our.
Oh no!
habits.
Ron Johnson's the cause.
Oh, so it starts with Ron Johnson. So if this was a family tree,
yes,
right.
Ron's at the top.
He would be at the top, and the funny thing is when he lived here. He was big into Scotch, so we would drink Scotch together quite often.
Yeah,
and he was real fond of Highland Park. I remember him always loving that, but I know he liked Macallan's and other Scotches too. So apparently, at some point, either right before he moved back or once he got there, he really got into the bourbon side of it.
Well, when he moved, I don't know if you know this story or not, but when he moved, there were some guys from up here that helped him move down there. And I think Jay Zada was one of them. But Jay found a case of E.H. Taylor I believe it was in his father's basement. And he gave each of the guys on that move one of the bottles. So when I got down to Ron's house, he said, this is before the Blanton's night. He's like, hey, you want to taste this? I go, oh, sure. What is it? And he said, Jay's dad had it in his basement, and I think he may have passed away, and Jay was cleaning out his house and found it and gave us all a bottle. And I said, sure, let's try some. And, that first taste wasn't very good. It was like, wow.
Well, it was probably...
There's a lot of heat to this, and I have no idea how old it was, and I don't think that affects it anything, but maybe it does. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was going to say it was probably pretty old, though.
And then I had a second taste, and I said, boy, this isn't bad. And like a night or two later was Blanton's night. But I think that Ron may have gotten into the bourbon after that. So maybe Jay's at is at the top of the tree. I don't know if that's,
so
that's
maybe
the right thing to do.
He might be off. It's Ron at the top, but then there's a line across
or like
to
an
Jay.
asterisk.
Yeah.
So, but Ron's definitely into the bourbon since he's moved down there, and
I always liked Ron.
So I have to blame him or credit him, I should say.
Yeah.
Both.
I always liked Ron. He was always a really good guy when I was the general manager at the country club.
Yeah. A lot of fun. Fun to be around.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Just always a good disposition.
Yeah.
He actually, I was going to say those bottles might have been old enough that they might have been really worth some money.
Yeah.
I was just talking.
They look exactly like the ones we have today.
Do they?
Yeah.
I was just talking to Tommy Gentile. Tommy Gentile said he found a bottle of Old Foresters at his dad's house, completely unopened. It's 60 years old.
Oh my!
Wow,
60 years old.
He said to taste.
He said he looked it up. I thought he would want to wait till after this was all over before he came on, but he was like, "Hey, hit me up, and we'll do this podcast." So hopefully he'll be coming on soon too. All right, but back to
I might have to just sneak in I'll just hang out in the corner.
I'm sure he
when
would.
It's opened up and be like, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what else do we have here?
Okay, so we also have Henry McKenna. Henry McKenna is one of my favorites. Certainly, I put it in my top 5 for sure. It's a spicier bourbon. It's bottled in bond. And bottled in bond means it's 100 proof, and it also means that it has to follow very strict guidelines to be able to say that it's bottled in bond.
Yeah, it has to be the 100 proof. It has to be a glass bottle, and it has to be government facility.
4 years minimum.
4 years minimum.
Yeah. So it's made by Heaven Hill Distillery. Heaven Hill makes all kinds of other really solid products.
Yeah.
Just to name a few: Old Fitzgerald, Rittenhouse Rye, Dave's favorite, Larceny, Pikesville Rye, which we talked about last time, and Elijah Craig. And a lot of people know Elijah Craig, real good product. They have about 3 or 4 others, but I think those are the ones worth mentioning.
Heaven Hill's buying all those up, right, and then continuing to do them.
That's what they did with Pikesville, and I think a few of those others too. Yes,
I know they did that with the Fitzgerald, the Larceny. I read that.
Yeah.
I will say, just an update on my Larceny, my bottle of Larceny. I took it to a friend's house for a bonfire and left it there purposely.
Nice. Nice. You could have used it as kerosene on the fire.
Yeah, I'm still willing to try the other larcenies. Like what's the one you want to try?
The barrel strength.
The barrel strength. Yeah. I don't like that. What is that? Their small batch.
Yeah.
I just don't like that.
And see, I didn't mind it. And it was early on in my bourbon drinking days, and I really think that it's a very soft, mild, easy to drink bourbon for people. I would recommend it for people who are just getting into bourbon to try that. They can't. I don't think they can jump into the high proof stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I will say that to me it tasted like topsoil. I tried it 4 or 5 different times. It's what it tastes like to me. I remember I was just telling them this story. I remember being a little kid. My dad had this yard at one point and it had soil all over the place. I was playing around, got some in my mouth. Didn't remember what that tasted like till I tasted larceny. The other thing I will say.
I feel like
I wonder if that topsoil was fertilized.
It could be the reason for a lot of my issues.
I feel like when we're discussing about, well, those were my early bourbon days, that we're talking about like when we were drinking bourbon when we were in our diapers. Well, that's when I had my diaper on when I was drinking that bourbon. Now I've evolved. Yeah. I can actually go to the bathroom on my own.
I will have to say I had a lady come into the liquor store, and the first thing she asked for was Buffalo Trace, and we actually had it in. So I was like, yeah, that's right here. She was like, and in larceny. And she went over, and she basically compared the prices, and there's like $1 difference. And she was like, well, I'm going to get him the larceny. And I was like, hold on. I was like, listen, put it down. Go get the Buffalo Trace. One, it's harder to get. That larceny will always be here on the shelf. Second of all, the Buffalo Trace is good.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
All right, so back to Henry McKenna.
So McKenna, aged 10 years, and you'll probably hear me say this a lot, and I've probably already said it on previous podcasts, but Jeff turned me on to this. So if it wasn't for Jeff, I wouldn't know about it.
Well,
I'm sure eventually I would have come across it.
The same guy that turned me on to the I.W. Harper turned me on to the McKenna. Yeah. I researched it a little bit, and the one thing that one of the reviews said was what a great old-fashioned it makes. And so that's how I originally bought it and what I bought it for, and probably went through 2 or 3 first bottles, mostly drinking it that way until one day I said, Tom, his name's Tom Lazar that I'm talking about. Tom said, oh, my wife and I drink it neat.
Yeah,
I didn't even consider drinking it neat. Then I tasted it. I'm like, oh shit, no wonder it's delicious.
Yeah, like, oh man, I've been wasting this.
Yeah. So now it's a rare occasion where we'll say, oh, all right, we'll have an old fashioned with the McKenna. Like if we're really like wanting the top old fashioned. Yeah. But you do feel like it's wasting it because it's just so darn good.
Yeah, it's one of my.
That's what we had the day of my hole in one. We all had Henry McKenna old fashions at my house.
You went for the gusto that day.
Yeah. Well, it was a special day.
And then you went back the next day to see if you could do it again.
We don't need to talk about my failures, Dave. Let's talk about my successes.
It is amazing that you hit a hole in one, though. Congratulations on that.
I'm so glad you brought that up because there's kind of a funny bourbon side to this story, and it doesn't have anything to do with McKenna. So I unfortunately was not able to golf with Jeff that day. We golf together regularly, regularly, as my daughter would say, regularly. And so I wasn't real happy about not being there to begin with. Now, it was January, shortly after the 1st. Or was it on the 1st?
January 11th, to be exact.
January 11th.
111.
111, that's right. How could I forget?
A lot of ones that day.
111, hole in one.
All right.
So I get the text and the photo right after it happens, shortly after it happens. And, of course, I'm excited for my friend, and it's awesome. And then at the same time, I'm like, damn it, why couldn't I have been there? Because when I had my first hole-in-one, and this is not his first, third, he was there. Yeah. And so were some other really good friends. And, it just makes it that much more enjoyable when you have your best friends there.
Right. Everybody's losing their mind.
And of course, I would have been right there losing my mind with the other people that were there with him. That being said, I knew at some point, they're going to be finishing up. They're going to be having a drink in the Stag. I got to go up and celebrate. So once they finished up, I grabbed my bottle of Blanton's that I had, and I put it in a bag. And that's going to be his gift from me, for his congratulation gift from me for getting the hole in one. Yeah. So I walk in there, group of guys sitting at the big round table. and I set the bag down, and you can tell what it is just because of the shape. And they're just like, guys are sitting around, oh my God, they're so impressed. And then someone pulls it out of the bag. It's about half. It's half empty, half full, however you want to look at it. I like half full.
Half full,
And then all of a sudden it's like, well, what the hell is this?
Then everybody
It's
was
not even a
upset with
full
you.
bottle. I said I brought it for us all to drink and toast with Jeff and congratulate him.
I figured we would just finish this off today.
Right. I still thought it was a good.
It was a wonderful gesture and very smart on Steve's part, because if he'd have brought the whole bottle, we would have drank the whole bottle. There's no doubt about it. But that was very nice. It was.
You were talking about the shape. You guys have all seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
One of my favorites.
I like to call it the holy hand grenade of bourbons.
Yes.
You remember the holy hand grenade they threw in that?
Yep.
Yes.
It's got that kind of same
It
shape.
does.
It does.
Yeah, pull that up real quick, Jacob. All right, so
Okay. So
the Henry McKenna.
I know I digress. Just to get through what we're going to be tasting is going to take an hour. The next one up.
See how these podcasts last 3 hours now. Jeez.
Oh, it's easy. I mean, we almost did a 4-hour one, for the love of God.
Am I right?
It is.
Yeah. It's the holy hand grenade of bourbon.
It looks like the what's the
It almost
liqueur? Is it raspberry liqueur that comes in?
Yeah,
the
Chambord.
Chambord, yeah.
Yeah.
It almost makes me think that maybe that's where
They modeled it after.
I don't know how long Blanton's has been around. Okay, so the next one, I got to start writing these things down, Dave.
Yeah, is the Yellowstone.
Yellowstone, a little bit of an interesting story. It is made by Limestone Branch. Limestone Branch is kind of one of more of these progressive, if you will, distilleries. Also a blend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No shit.
Now, they don't give you much in the way of telling you what they're blending as far as years and that sort of thing. And same sort of thing with Widow, but it would have to be it have to be at least 10-year bourbons because they wouldn't be able to put it on the bottle. This is 93 proof, but it does not give you any age specificity. And I think for that reason, it's because they probably got different years blended in there, and it's not always going to be the same. And it's we talk about how Jim Beam kind of has their tentacles all over Kentucky. So some sort of descendants of that family, Paul and Steve Beam, are the two that own that distillery.
Okay. Now, how I ended up with the Yellowstone is Tommy was like, all right, pick out one more bottle. And you know me, now I'm freaking out because I was actually at Steubenville, who at the time, I think we might outnumber them now, but at the time they had more bourbon than we had out at Wintersville. So I'm in there and I'm like, oh, God, Clyde Mays, Yellowstone. I'm looking at all these different ones. I'm looking at my phone, and that was the only one that consistently got a 9 out of 10.
I was just going to say, good reviews on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how we ended up with that one.
In case you want that for your next.
Yeah, I probably will.
So we are enjoying a
4-row single barrel.
Yes, single barrel. Thank you. Okay.
Before we actually start the tasting, just so you guys know, put that dog out on the chain because I'm sure everybody can hear her crying. So I'm going to put her outside. But go ahead. We'll finish going through these.
I enjoy the crying.
I like a little cry with my bourbon.
I usually cry by the end of these podcasts. The last one, probably the one I am most excited about, is Joseph Magnus. And here's the crazy thing with this. So it's triple cask finished.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I think, it just seems like a cool thing. And they use 2 different types of sherry casks and a cognac cask.
Yeah, which I hate cognac, so I was surprised about the cognac finish.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And it is originally when Dave and I first started talking about this, when he first got the bottle, I was like, oh, I think that's DC. I pulled it up and I'm looking, I'm saying, so they do have a distillery in DC.
Okay.
I fact checked that, and then that is very true. I don't know the age, and again, I think it's one of these that it's non-age specific. But according to what I read, it's rumored to be around 9 years old.
Okay.
Is that from here locally?
Yeah, I got that in Sumbo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty cool bottle.
It sits up on.
It is.
It sits behind the counter, up on top of the shelf. I saw it sitting up there, and I was like, "Man, Tommy, that one up there is $90. But man, look at that bottle." And he was like, "Done."
Stimulus
check. But yeah, that's how we ended up with that one. Same time we got the Yellowstone. The first time I tried the Magnus, I didn't like it. Then a little while later in the night, I tried it again, and then I was like, "Oh wait, I think I really like this."
Maybe you'd like to donate that to the club.
So
I have to say, I did try. I had a little taste of the Jefferson's 21st voyage. I couldn't help myself.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
I liked it.
liked it a lot.
Yeah, same.
And I know we're not doing that here. And really, we could do what we could do when we do the Jefferson's Pritchard Hill and the Jefferson's Groth, do a couple voyages.
Mm-hmm.
Do the 21. He has the 19,
Yep.
which
He loves. He was
Yeah.
telling me about it the other
Yeah,
day.
it's really soft and easy to drink.
Yeah.
It's a weeded bourbon,
Okay.
which is the same as Pappy.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I have the
there's-
17, but I know, I think we already did that, didn't we?
No.
I brought it, but
We didn't
do it.
do it, but we'll do it, even though it's something that I swear I don't like. Who knows? Maybe my palate changed again. I've tried it a few times. What do we know? What the 17 is?
I don't.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, we could do all those, and then we could just do a Jefferson's, and we add in those two Groth casts that we have to compare, or the two Cabernet casts we have to compare.
And maybe they will like your shout-outs.
Yeah,
Your
'cause-
Instagram.
Yeah, because they liked it last time.
yeah.
I was very surprised. Shout out to Jefferson for liking the social media posts.
Nice.
Which, was it in Neat, or what? I can't remember if it was in Neat or Bourbon Tucky of the documentaries I was watching, where they do a nice 10 to 15-minute story just on Jefferson's and the story of Oceans and how they're doing these collaborations with the wineries.
I think it might have been neat. I remember them talking briefly about it in there. I have to watch it again, to be honest. It's been so long since I've seen it now because I was
Trey
waiting on you.
Lautner? Is that how you say his last name?
You know what? I didn't realize that bottle you gave me. It's actually signed.
It is signed.
Yeah, I can't believe you gave that to me.
Wow.
You're a good guy.
I'm just a good guy. And that could be my signature. I don't know. I thought you thought I was fairly famous and you wanted my signature on it.
We're gonna make you famous by the
Well,
time
I'll tell
this
you,
is
after
over.
you guys,
Seller.
after the review you guys did on that the Groth bottle, I will volunteer to be part of the next one if you're going to do all the Jeffersons, because geez Louise, you guys were gushing all over this one.
Yeah, we were.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I really do.
I think it's Zeller.
I drank it one more time after that, and then I wanted to save it for a good occasion. And I loved it just as much next time. Yeah, so we'll
it's
pen you in for the Jefferson tasting.
Beautiful.
We have just enough probably for 3 people to taste it.
Yep.
Maybe 4.
Yeah.
I was thinking 2.
But you can't get rid of this bottle.
No, obviously.
Oh, no, Steve signed it.
So, quick breakdown before I let the dogs out. Because we got sidetracked there. Let's go through them quickly. Let's try to give an MSRP on them too, as close as we can get.
Yeah.
So we'll start with your two.
Well, the IW Harper's I think 75 to 80, and the Widow Jane is about 60, 65.
Okay.
Yes. Henry McKenna.
It's 49. Listen, 2 years ago when I started buying it, it was $30, $29. It is now $49.95.
And that's if you can
it has-
find it for that price.
that's exactly
And in New
right.
Jersey, didn't we pay $60 for it?
I think we did.
Yeah.
Just to get it.
And they had it in the back. They didn't even have it out. We had to ask for it.
Yeah, I think the MSRP hits about 40, but I think most of the time you're going to get it for 60 if you're lucky.
When I'm telling you, when I first started buying it, it was $29.95.
It's crazy.
That's insane.
And no limit, buy as many as you want. Now it's usually one, but I did find it up in Robinson in the Strip District, and they let me buy 4 bottles at once.
Nice, beautiful.
$49.95.
We're not going to say what he had to do in order for them to let him buy those 4 bottles, but again, that comes in the
Slut.
bourbon sluttiness.
So, and then we have the Yellowstone, and the Yellowstone was, I want to say, about 35 MSRP. And then the Joseph Magnus is rounding them out. It was 85.90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it looked like it was consistently 90 to even as much as 99 online.
Yeah, it was definitely in the 80s. I think 85 at the Steubenville Kroger's local here. All right, we're going to take a brief break just so I can let the dogs out and jump right back into the tasting.
Bill Murray.
Okay.
We'll get him to pull it up because I don't know if you're going to take it as
The guy with the glasses.
as a compliment.
I'm sure it's not going to be a compliment. My baldness is showing everywhere.
And I probably butchered the shit out of his name. Oh wait,
I know exactly
there
who
he
you're
is.
talking about. Yep, I know who you're talking about.
I said it pretty good, Tobolowski.
And we both have glasses, so
It's pretty good.
I was thinking about just going ahead and instead of just shaving it into the horseshoe.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with that. Doug Schaefer likes to do that.
I said it's the only thing that really shows my age. But they let me wear a hat at work, and I wear hats all the time anyway. And I'm just like, I'm too lazy right now. It's quarantine time.
Right. So, what do you think our order should be here?
Oh, that's a good question.
Let's
I think
look at proof.
But I think maybe we should start with the Janes regardless, to
I
try
like
to
that.
get that difference.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, do we want to do the not younger batch, older batch? 144, I've got to think is a little bit of an older batch.
I would think the numbers go up. Yeah. But they're both from 2019, so
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So which one we start with? This one?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and give myself the little pour here because I can't.
Have we been
over-pour during these
recording?
tastings. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I've had batch 144. I bought 2 bottles when I found the Widow Jane. I was so thrilled to find it. So I know that I like this one.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how the other one tastes.
I don't know if you want to use the pour. Just be.
Nah, it's
Yeah. Okay.
I just sometimes when I let Steve free pour, I get way too much for a quick tasting and move on to the next one. I'm like, all right, I really gotta swallow this down.
So it's funny when I listen to the podcasts, they flow. There's a lot of talking going on, and all of a sudden it gets to the tasting, and then there's like silence. You guys are all drinking at the same time, and I thought they got to do this better. There's like dead air, and now we're going to do the exact same thing. So
Yeah, there's just no way around it.
well, I can talk while you guys taste.
Well, I was going to say I would tell you that the batch 144 that I obviously have already been through one bottle because this is my second one. Was just delicious. That's the one I had in my flask and my golf bag and shared with some friends, and it has been very well received. So I'm as much curious to see what you two think as what I'm going to say because I already know that I like it. It's smooth, easy drinking.
It's very smooth. It has a nice butteriness to it. A lot of people like to say oily. I like to say buttery. I think it's more romantic. It's really good. Little spicy.
Definitely spicy.
Brown sugar.
Yeah. Brown sugar. I mean, of course, the caramel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That goes without saying. It does have a nice long finish, and when you do the Kentucky Chew and do a little bit of that, and I think I brought this up in the last tasting, it hits your nose, but it goes away quickly, which tells me that it's a nice, like, I hate to use the word refined because all bourbon's refined, but it doesn't stay there so long where you just, it's too pronounced with the alcohol.
Right.
And I like the woodiness of it.
Technical difficulties. Go ahead, keep talking. I'll fix this.
So it's almost like a cedar, if you will.
Okay, good.
But yeah, I am becoming a bigger and bigger fan of Widow Jane. And like Jeff explained before, I happened to be at the club the day when Manny brought this bottle. And of course, we were golfing together. And immediately it was like, if you've ever seen those National Geographic specials with meerkats, and they just immediately pop up and stand erect, and there's like 10 or 15 of them. It's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
That was Jeff and I in the middle of the golf course, like bourbon.
Bourbon?
What?
Tommy's thing when he knows it's the day that we're going to drink bourbon. The Will Ferrell movie, Anchorman, Scotch. He's like, bourbon.
Which I cannot believe that wasn't an honorable mention for the comedies. It's just one that just
Yeah.
missed us.
Yeah, it really did.
What a funny movie.
Yeah. Just to let you know, Jeff, if you want to move this around, if you just grab this.
All right.
You can't do anything there. All right.
Jeff's breaking things already.
I definitely got a little bit of the
Rookie.
charred. I didn't get overly wood, but I definitely got a little bit of charred. I really like this. This is excellent.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some orange
Yeah.
in it. I said brown sugar, but
I feel like these.
say it's like a
but oaky.
I feel like these aren't always accurate. The ones we pull up here, to be honest with you.
Just it really tastes good.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's my review of Widow Jane.
Go out and buy a Widow Jane. It tastes good.
And I'll tell you, one of the reasons I don't think these are always accurate is because when I looked up larceny, it did not say potting soil.
Which one? That one, yeah.
So
I didn't give myself enough to add some water to, or I drank it all neat.
So one thing I wasn't able to find out, and I would like to find out. So not only is he breaking
Technical
things,
difficulties. Oh,
he apparently has not used the dropper.
Yeah. Let me see that bottle
I
back
thought
there.
you poured it into
This?
the glass.
No. Yeah.
This.
So we just had another little technical difficulty.
Jesus.
I didn't warn you, so I'm going to take
First
partial.
tasting.
I'm going to take partial blame for that.
I didn't know it was an eyedropper.
He tried to just
Pour
pour
it
it
in.
in. He had the eyedropper in his glass.
When the hell would I use an eyedropper? Actually, I have some bitters at home that have eyedroppers. They're the bigger jars of bitters, and you take the. Yeah, I should have known better, but
It's amazing.
you probably got enough water in
His
there.
bourbon knowledge is immense, but it's weird how remedial he'll be with certain things.
That was great.
First water?
The first technical difficulty was he pulled the microphone off the table.
What is this? Is this water?
No,
How does this work?
Jesus.
I do have to say, when I added the water, I noticed immediately more wood and more char. Immediately from the smell. I didn't do the taste yet.
Well, in mine, I noticed a lot of water and a little bit of bourbon.
That was so great. It's things like that make me wish I had the camera already.
Jeez. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't.
You know, the other crazy thing about this, and I'm sure this...
Did you notice that more on the smell, though? The wood
Absolutely.
and the char?
When you swirl this around, much like a really good glass of wine, Cabernet in particular, or red wine, and you get the legs from swirling it around in the glass, this really has a nice profile when you do that, which is supposed to be a sign of a very good spirit. Okay.
Honestly, I'm a wimp. Even that 1 ounce pour was too much for me. Oh, I take sipping. It has a lot of legs. You're right. Jesus.
The bourbon was gone.
No,
I
I'm
just
just
rinsed it.
shaking it in
Oh,
my head
okay,
about all
yeah.
the water I
Well,
just dumped in that
yeah.
second pour. But
Oh, it was hilarious though.
Yeah.
So you didn't get to do the real smell test because yours
That's
would have
okay.
been water.
like I said, I've had the 144, so I'm not so upset about it. So I'm curious to see how the next one tastes.
Yes, so now we're going to do the Widow Jane batch 167. And just so when people, if you're going to go out and you're going to purchase a bottle and you say, wow, these guys loved batch 144, what you'll find on the label across the front is it's handwritten in with basically looks like a red Sharpie, batch number, bottle number, and then the date.
It's definitely something I have to have in my collection from the first batch of
I
it.
feel better if I'm holding the glass.
Here, I'll take that. I'm gonna give myself an even smaller
Yeah,
pour.
And I don't mean to put a plug in for some other liquor store, but they do sell this up in Robinson at the wine
do
and
they?
spirit store.
Oh
yeah.
no! Please let people know
Yeah.
where they can get it.
Yep.
I got my bottle online during this pandemic. It took what normally
PA is closed.
what normally would take about a week and a half, according to the emails that I received from the company I bought it from, took about 6 weeks.
Wow.
Because I was hoping to have it before our last tasting.
Yeah.
And I didn't. So
I'll tell you what, I think people are definitely even more like, wow, these guys are alcoholics. They always have new bourbon to try. And I'm okay with that. All right, so which batch is this?
this is batch 167.
I feel like even without the water, I get a little bit more char off the nose on this one than I did the last one.
I would agree.
More heat?
I haven't tasted it yet, but yeah. Yeah.
Not as much sweetness up front.
And I get a little more citrus on this. Call me crazy.
Well, that's the opposite of sweet.
Yeah. I think it's actually even more buttery than the last one too. I think it's got a more oily mouthfeel than the last one.
I agree with that.
It's excellent though. They're both excellent. They definitely both have very similar tastes, but they are definitely different. If you're looking for it, it's distinguishable.
Yeah.
Definitely more citrus.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I can smell the orange in this one too. Maybe my mind playing tricks on me. What the fuck do I know?
I think the first one was a little sweeter profile.
I agree.
I agree. This one has a little more heat. I think you said that.
Yep.
And maybe it's just because I already had one, but I feel like the finish wasn't as long.
I agree.
Yeah. I drop her, Jeff.
I get it right this time. Jesus.
So there again, and of course we'll run it down once we're done, but probably say that 144 would be a little bit better.
Which one was 144? The first one?
Yes.
Yeah, it was for me.
Yeah.
I concur. I really like butteriness, but the second one was almost overly buttery.
Yeah, I don't hate the second one at all. It's
Still good.
Just a little bit different taste profile.
And the thing that's great, if you do your research or you watch some of the bourbon documentaries,
Man, the water brings out
there's no, and I don't agree with this, but they say it a few times. There's no bad bourbon, and there's also no wrong way to drink bourbon.
Did they try the Larceny small batch?
Yeah. So there are definitely bad bourbons.
These just don't happen to be one
Right.
of them.
But anything we've tasted, sometimes it might sound a little harsh. We came down a little hard on the Statesman last tasting. It's not a bad bourbon. I just think it's a bourbon that's meant to be drank as an old fashioned.
I will say the Statesman I don't think is a bad bourbon. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you read the write-up about it, really it sounds like they made it to be that. And the whole Statesman idea, and I didn't know what it was prior to the last tasting, is from the movie Kingsman.
Oh, no shit.
So it was a bourbon that they came up with, so a novelty type of bourbon.
Yeah.
That they said, okay, we're doing this in honor of the Kingsman Statesman movie, and they were drinking old fashions in that movie and other things, I'm sure. But so I'm anxious to try it in an old fashioned and see how that is.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to do it yet.
The Weller is bad too. The Weller Green, the Special Reserve is not good.
And see, my old boss said he thinks the Weller Green is one of the best value bourbons out there you can buy, and he drinks it on the rocks. But this one I liked better with a little water in it.
I was just gonna say,
It just seeemed to.
which one? The 167.
Yeah, the second
yes,
one.
I agree.
I like the first one without water. Of course, the first one I had 4 ounces of water when I put it in. But the second one seemed to be took away a little bit of that heat up front.
Yeah, I definitely liked it more, and actually, for some reason, the water seemed to extend the finish as well.
Yeah. Steve, it's funny you said that there's no wrong way to drink bourbon. I was in Louisville, excuse me, and I had brought a bottle of Angel's Envy rye. I'm sorry, we were actually in Wheeling at Ogilvy. I had a customer who brought his team in. They do a golf thing every year. It's a whole tournament event. It's really pretty cool. They do all kinds of different games. Anyway, I digress. But the one guy is actually from Louisville, and I brought a bottle of Angel's Envy rye down to meet them.
Okay.
And we were sitting outside, And we're drinking it. Of course, I'm drinking it neat. My buddy that works for this company drinks it neat. And this guy sits down next to me from Louisville, and he grabs a handful of ice and throws it in a glass and dumps the Angel's Envy Rye over top of it. And I'm like, oh, my God. I said, and you're from Louisville. What are you doing? You don't drink Angel's Envy Rye on the rocks. And he just looked at me and said, Jeff, there's no wrong way to drink bourbon or rye. And I went, well, I guess you're from Louisville. You would know. So, and then Steve just said it tonight. It brought back that memory.
You definitely couldn't argue with him.
No, I couldn't. He's like, this is the way I enjoy it.
I will say, if you don't have blocks, though, I usually just grab like 1 or 2 cubes.
Well,
I don't.
Then they had the small cubes. He grabbed a handful. I was appalled.
Yeah, I'm appalled too.
But
Yeah.
that's the way he liked it, you know?
Yeah.
And I know we elaborated on it, and I believe it was the podcast with Tommy, how we've become definitely bourbon snobs, but also ice cube snobs.
Oh yeah.
Like, you get me at a bar or at a restaurant, and if they don't have large cubes, I'm flipping tables. I'm throwing shit off the bar.
The glass goes up against the.
It's obvious the food will suck too.
Yeah. There may be a middle finger thrown.
But I'll tell you what, it was so crazy because I didn't know that the club had the big cubes now too. Because let's be honest, when I was there, man, our liquor selection was not great at the club.
Yeah, it was a poorly run club at the time, Dave.
But you could get a really.
Sorry, couldn't resist that. I'm just kidding.
No, but that was good. That was really, really good.
Well, you didn't know anything back then.
You could get a really
truly
nice
didn't.
glass of Canadian Club Mist.
Canadian Club Mist. We were focused on wines. What were we thinking? Don't get me wrong. I do like a good wine, but the liquor choices were poor.
Oh, don't get us started on what wine snobs we are. We're not wine sluts. We are complete wine snobs.
I think I'm scratching the shit out of your table.
That's
There
fine.
might be
Yeah, that
something
bottle's
sharp.
doing it. Yep.
It's fine. Don't
We
worry
did
about
it over here, too.
Listen, I got this all. This table's all jacked up from bourbon tastings. I'm not worried about it.
Well, let's be honest here. It's jacked up from Tommy.
Yes.
Looks like there's a couple of burn marks in your tabletop, too. I'm not
Are there
sure
burn
what those
marks?
are from.
Now
Dave?
what's weird is these are from bourbon.
Huh.
Isn't that weird? It's from little
Now-
drops. All
Wow.
these circles, it all comes from when we do bourbon tasting.
Must have been that larceny shit.
It probably was. Although
So-
there is a burn mark on that side.
I was having a little bit of a bourbon moment earlier. Did we or did we not? We did not do McKenna in the very first tasting, did we?
No.
We just had it like on the side. I think Jacob had a little bit of it.
Yeah, we might have had it on the first, but we didn't do it in the tasting. I'm pretty positive.
All right.
I could be
I
wrong.
feel confident we need to leave the Magnus for last.
No, Four Roses.
Are you guys okay with doing the Yellowstone next?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
okay with that. Yeah.
So my thinking was we would go Yellowstone, McKenna, Harper because it's 15, and then I don't know why I just feel like Magnus needs to be last.
That's fine.
I mean, it's the highest price point.
Yep, doesn't matter.
We got so much fucking bourbon left to drink.
Darn.
Son of a bitch.
This podcast sucks.
And I believe Dave and I made a promise to each other, we're going to keep the bourbons from now on to just 3.
What's hilarious is every time, even if we do limit it to 3, we end up adding. Like last time we added Old Forester, the regular, because we were like, man, this Statesman. And I was like, you know what? We need to try the regular. Yep, the regular's better.
Pam, go get the Wegala.
She was out in the living room. I yelled for her. That's actually why the whole bourbon collection got moved into the studio. I'm like, I can't be yelling for people to get the bourbon. Get the bourbon.
Mom! Mom!
The bourbon.
I said the bourbon.
So this is a little lighter in color.
It is lighter in color.
Yeah, the Widow Jane's a little darker.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, I'd say it's considerably darker.
And I'm going to go with the age of the bourbon. Now, again, we don't know the age of this, but we know Widow Jane for sure is 10,
Right.
obviously.
And in order to be considered a bourbon, it only has to be aged 3 years, correct?
Yes.
Bottled and bond 4, bourbon 3.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Okay. I know the bottle and bond. I'm not sure about the bourbon part.
Jacob, see if you can find that on there for us, brother. Let's give this a sniff.
So while you guys are drinking, I'll take up the dead airspace and
I get sweetness from this on the nose.
maybe it's a high corn mash bill.
Is that what
Corn
how that
usually
happens?
leads to sweetness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say it's 70%.
Okay. Well, the IW Harper is 86%.
Wow.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So
It's 80, and it's also 86 proof. Coincidence?
I think not.
Oh.
I almost
Yeah,
got.
it's only like 8% rye, but we should talk about Yellowstone at this point, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if it's maple, but
It's brown. Well, for me, it's brown sugar.
you know what? I bet you every time I think maple, it's brown sugar. So this is definitely way different than the two that we've had previously.
Not nearly as sweet. Even if,
No.
I don't care if it is high. It's 70% corn. It's not that sweet.
No.
I taste. I get the alcohol.
Yeah, I get the smell of the sweet, but I do not get it on
Yeah.
the taste.
I'd give it a medium finish.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
long, but certainly not short.
Yeah. It's got a decent flavor to it, but it's way different than the two we just had.
Peanut. Does anybody else? Anyone
Hazelnut
else
and-
smelling peanut?
Peanut
No.
is real big on there, though.
Oh yeah.
Smelling ass.
Not a fan,
I
huh?
don't know if it's one of you guys or if it's this bourbon, but I smell ass.
You can't blame it on Monsignor. He's not here. He's not here this week.
He is not shit on the floor in the studio this week.
I mean, the tasting notes have a very large concentration of caramel, which I do not taste.
No, I agree with that.
All I get is the alcohol.
You really? All you get is alcohol?
Yeah, I'm not getting much of anything but alcohol.
I'm not going to go that far. I mean, I'm definitely getting. I do get the
A
peanut.
little bit of a toasty, maybe a toasty kind of taste,
Yep.
but I get a lot of alcohol.
Let's call it toasted nuts.
It's like being at a baseball game.
I can tell you
Get
one
your
thing
toasted
for
nuts.
sure. This is not even close to being on the same level as the Widow Jane.
No. Remind me
No.
the price point on this.
Like 35.
Okay. And this could go. I mean, again, sometimes it's always. It's not always going to be this way, but sometimes it will fall under those guys of you get what you pay for.
I want to see how it does with water.
Yeah, I
But,
almost
and
drank the whole damn
if we
thing
would
without
have
water.
tasted this first, I think I would have liked it a little bit better.
Yeah.
There was so much flavor and
There was a lot
in the
going
Widow
on.
Jane. It was
Yeah.
so good. It's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, we actually probably screwed up even though we wanted to compare the two because
Well-
that Widow Jane is just
It's good stuff.
leaps and bounds above this. And what was the Widow Jane MSRP?
When
65?
I just got it online, I paid $70. Now
Okay.
I was expecting to pay a little more.
Right.
So maybe the water will cut the alcohol a little bit. Let's see. Dead air?
Also, again, just a reference point. Definitely some legs there, but not nearly the legs that Widow Jane had.
Water definitely helped.
You
Water
know, if
definitely
someone
helps.
just now started the podcast and just heard that sentence I said, they'd be like, "Who's Widow Jane?
And what are her legs?"
And I need to see her legs." You just, my God, they must be sexy.
Those must be some good legs.
Wait till they find out she's only 10 years old.
And then wait till they find out her nickname's Widow Jane and she's only 10 years old. Disturbing.
She's killing guys left and right. Definitely brought out a little bit of caramel after I added the water.
Yeah,
Yes.
the water definitely helped a lot.
Yep.
I think that roastedness, the hazelnuts came out a decent bit on there. It's funny that at least the rye is small, but I don't get a ton of rye.
I almost feel like even if you would say, like, you know, I like to say sometimes if it's a bourbon we're not a huge fan of, well, this is going to make a good old-fashioned or this is going to make a good
Yeah.
Manhattan. But I almost feel like I don't even know if I can say that about this because
No.
to me it would make my old-fashioned too sweet.
Yeah, well, and you know what I pick up from it, both tastes, and is I feel like herbs is a good way to describe it. Both tastes is herbs. I didn't even see that up there earlier. I think that's a good way to describe what I got both times. I don't know what the herbs are.
Dave, it says herbs.
Herbie Hancock.
Or Herbie Sprock.
That was a good one.
All right, I'm rinsing mine. I'm moving on.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm a little let down by this because the first time I tasted it, but I just drank it on a rock. I was like, oh, okay.
I would drink this on the rocks if I had nothing else in the house. But I would never drink it neat.
No.
I did not like it neat at all.
I for sure would not drink it neat.
I'm thinking I would ask Jan to come over and drink it with Diet Coke.
Man, you really hate this.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all.
You like the Benchmark better?
I never had the Benchmark.
Oh, you never had the Benchmark?
No.
Oh, man. We have to pull that out. We won't give it to him right now, but he's going to taste that tonight.
Don't let the plastic bottle scare you.
Or the $7.99 price tag on it?
No. That's $18.99 for the half gallon.
Half gallon. Oh, sorry.
It's 10 flat for the fifth. But honest to God, it's decent, especially for that price point. And actually, something I forgot to bring up earlier, they are actually Buffalo Trace has recognized the market for the Benchmark, and they're coming out with 5 different benchmarks now.
Now, are they going to be flavored benchmarks?
No.
Okay.
It is bottled in bond. I didn't bother writing down the proof for that because we know what the proof is. They're doing a full proof, 125 proof, single barrel, 95 proof, small batch, 90. Did you hear that little southern accent I got there for a second? I said single barrel, 95 proof.
He's living in Kentucky now, folks. He's a Tucky boy.
Small batch, 90 proof, and then top floor bourbon, 86 proof. Oh, yeah, it's sitting weird over there.
It's leaning left. It's
All right, so next up we're doing Henry McKenna.
Hank.
Good old Hank. I already know I like this one. I am curious to see what I think after drinking the Widow, though.
Smells good. Well, listen, after that,
darker flavor, darker.
it's like when you take a new job and you follow a guy that's a piece of shit. You're going to be an instant hero. We're following the Yellowstone. This is going to be delicious.
That's true. I'm so let down by the Yellowstone. I thought that was going to be a good one.
Oh, yeah. Definite caramel. Definite honey. Maybe a little butterscotch.
Hank never lets me down.
Got a nice butteriness to it.
I know.
And to think the first 2 or 3 bottles of this I made
old
fashions with it. And they were spectacular.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were amazing.
Spectacular.
Probably the best old fashioned I've ever had.
Yeah.
Well, and if there's some reviews out there that say, go heavy on the aromatic bitters because this is nice and spicy. It's going to make a great old fashioned, and that's exactly what I did. I'm like, oh my God, these are spectacular.
Yeah, I definitely get the honey and the caramel. I gotta tell you, I love on the tasting notes up here the gun with the fire.
Yeah, that is nice. But that's one of the things that I love about this particular bourbon is the spiciness. Now
it's got a good spice.
That's why it makes such a good old fashioned.
Exactly right.
It seems like rye and spicier things make the better old fashions.
And it's kind of a funny joke that Jeff and I have going back and forth because for the longest time when I first started drinking McKenna, I was convinced in my own mind that it was a rye because of its spiciness. It to me tastes like a rye, and I don't know I don't know the mash bill. I don't know the percentage of the rye, but my guess would be it's a higher percentage than maybe normal bourbons.
I would think so, yeah.
Because it's not
like last week you said, I'm having a rye. It's called Henry McKenna. That's a bourbon, damn it.
And there's been at least 3 or 4 occasions where you've told me that.
Yep.
And you would think it would sink in. Well, I think it finally has sunk in.
Doesn't have any of the mash bill.
Yeah, this is absolutely one of my favorites for a $50 bill. You're getting a high-end bourbon that is multi-purpose. You can drink it neat. You can throw a cube in it. You can make an old-fashioned out of it. It is just so solid.
Yeah. This is
I wish I had bought case after case when it was $29.95. Let me tell you.
This is in my top 3.
Yeah.
My
top 5
that I've had, and Widow Jane I think is going to be making an entrance into that top 5.
And that's something.
Yeah.
And I will
really
tell you
good.
this in my defense, because of course I always like to defend myself. So Henry McKenna's label, if you aren't familiar with it, is a green label.
Water drop.
So most ryes that I am aware of, for whatever reason, incorporate green in their labels. Pikesville,
It's true.
Woodford Rye Green Label. Russell's Green Label. So they're and I swear by the next podcast I will have the answer to this, but there is some connection with the color green and rye. So I think Henry McKenna needs to be held accountable here.
It's their fault.
It's their fault. Someone needs in their marketing department to say, hey, we're marketing this Henry McKenna as a rye because we have green on the label. And it's spicy.
Dave,
It is spicy.
My God, that's
I
spicy.
think you should reach out on behalf of the Fools podcast and tell them that they need to change the color of their label because Steve's insistence that it's a rye. But so Henry McKenna is a single barrel, bottled in bond. The one we are drinking right now is barrel number 7948, and it was barreled on February 2nd, 2010. So this was just put in the bottle earlier this year.
Yeah.
And it really is fantastic. It is definitely spicier than the Widow Jane. The Widow Jane's a more of a sweeter tasting. I definitely would drink the Widow Jane neat all day long, but the Henry McKenna I think is could go anyway. But really, a great old fashioned. If you don't mind spending $50 on a bottle of
for old
bourbon,
fashions,
right? It's awesome. So
I will say too that I think that also speaks to a great bourbon when it has versatility.
Yeah.
And this definitely does because you can drink it neat as we're doing right now, and it's spectacular.
Yeah.
You can drink it with a rock, and it is going to be equally as good. Or you can make yourself a phenomenal old-fashioned out of it.
I would 100% drink the McKenna neat. I'd say that at this point in my palate, I'd prefer it on the rock. The Widow Jane, I would for sure drink either way. I got to tell you guys.
I would drink the Widow Jane neat
At
all
the-
day long.
At the end of this Widow Jane might surprise everybody and come up at the top of my list.
Did Jacob get any Widow Jane? He needs some Widow Jane so he can,
Well, he's got to finish what he's got over there now.
You know, Dave, that's what I've been saying since I had when Manny brought that bottle over. I was gushing over how good it was, and after I found the two bottles and drank it and shared it, I mean, seriously, it's at least top 5 for me. It's that good.
I think we fucked up this whole tasting by putting it first. I really do.
Well, we
fucked up the whole tasting
we can blame
by having yellow stuff.
We can blame the newbie on that. Well, let's have the Widow Jane first. We gotta do the.
But listen, we were able to tell the difference between the two bottles because we weren't five tastings.
That's
in.
true. I completely agree. I had the same thought
Dave.
process.
No.
I did.
I don't disagree. I'm
This
just
is
giving
the
you a
McKenna
hard
is
time.
way up on my list. I kind of like it a little better because of the spiciness.
Right.
I really like that. As my palate has changed. But
Yeah.
Boy,
I
if
think
you want to sip on something that's sweet and tasty, the Widow's awesome.
I think I like
She's awesome.
I think I like spiciness, but I still think I'm leaning more towards the little bit of sweetness.
Well, I mean this sincerely. I don't mean this as an insult.
Right.
No,
But it's
tell him.
because
Lay it on him.
You're newer. You're newer to the bourbon, and,
Yeah.
and you're going to start softer and work your way up. I mean, honestly,
just-
Steve and I talk about it. My boss Paul, we have all had the same conversation the last 2 weeks. How we have gravitated towards the higher proof bourbons because they have more flavor, because there's less water, They're
Right.
not cut.
Yeah.
So,
But
once you can handle the burn,
Right. But I will say, like, this was still probably in my top 3, but, I had probably Blanton's, which is a little bit sweeter, not quite as spicy, at probably number 1, which it used to be E.H. Taylor, and I think I put E.H. Taylor at 2 now.
yeah.
Yeah.
After our first tasting. Which, by the way, I mean, I'm not trying to, create controversy here, but I believe I heard him call you soft.
Yeah, he did.
No, I said you tend to like you
Listen.
you beginners tend to like the softer, sweeter, easier drinking bourbons, as did we when we were first started drinking.
Listen, you've heard. I know I'm a little soft. You've heard of the Freshman 15. This is the Corona 15. All right.
All right. How about the Corona 30?
Oh my God. This is my least favorite podcast. No, I'm just fucking around.
The good
I
news
think we got to
is
get Tommy on here and have a you got to get a fourth microphone here.
Man, I got one. Jacob has it. If we
we
do
gotta
a
have
4,
Jacob.
we might have to steal his. We're working. Me and Jacob are looking into getting the equipment to do more
Jacob
mics.
and I.
Jake. Oh, here we go. Yeah, okay.
You're welcome.
Oh
Pam.
yeah, don't ever speak
You're welcome,
incorrect
Pam.
English around him.
We're gonna
Ever.
We're
That
gonna
was for Pam.
we're gonna start a classroom podcast with Jeff Sommers.
It's called proper English.
The proper uses of are and our.
As we're getting
There,
as we're getting
and there.
good and liquored up.
2, 2, and 2.
Oh shit.
Would of and would have.
Yes.
That's always a good one.
Yeah, Jan.
Jan. I saw Jan today.
Liquor store?
Yep.
Hey,
Either
hold on.
there-
He saw me there too. Let's not be
Hold on.
throwing stones at a glass house.
I wasn't working in the liquor store. I was walking to it for my break because for my break I hang out in the liquor store. And she was walking out with I don't know how many bottles, and I was like, "Did you see the new bourbon end cap?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "Well, come on."
Yeah,
And
you have to show it because it's
right.
it's not where we expect it to be.
It's well hidden.
And nobody else is pointing it
That's
out.
where you should put the Blantons because it's well hidden.
Right. And nobody else is pointing it out. So I told her, and she
Yeah.
bought 2 more bottles.
Nice.
That's
good
surprising
work.
for Jan.
That's good work.
Yeah. And we have to get those bourbon sales up in order to get more of the rare stuff. So they got to let people know.
What did she buy today?
The bourbons, God, I'm trying to think. I think she bought the 18, not the 18, the 1920.
Oh, good. Doug will like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she bought the 1920. And
So much flavor.
in the Woodford
Rye?
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it was nice of you to get that in.
So I was this close to buying the 1897, and I was telling Jeff the story earlier. So I bought 4 bottles today, right?
Yeah.
4 bottles is a kind of about the max that you can carry to the
That
counter.
last drink of McKenna was really good. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. So at this point, I'm like, if I get the 1897, it's either going to be a 2-tripper to the counter, or I'm going to look like a complete fool walking up trying to carry 5 bottles. And I thought, no, I'm just because I really want the 1897 again, bottled in bond.
That's the bottled and bond
Yep.
one, yeah.
And coming off of that, those documentaries last night, they spent. One of the documentaries spent a good 20 minutes
On the bottled and bond.
bottled in bond.
It's such a cool story.
No matter what the brand. And I'm watching this and I'm like, yes, I agree. Because I'll go off on a slight tangent real quick. Old Granddad. Now, Old Granddad is a bourbon that most people think it's a cheap bourbon. Okay, you can get regular Old Granddad for under, I think, right around $15.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
But if you buy the bottled in bond,
Which is
Old
about 20.
Granddad is $20. It is a damn good bourbon.
I'm telling you.
A damn
buy
good
it
bourbon.
and make yourself old fashions until you pass out. I'm serious. It is it's a great value.
There you go,
bourbon.
kids.
Well, wait till you try that benchmark, my friend.
Well, after a few more, it might be good, but after the fucking Yellowstone. But I'm
It is
serious,
better than
but
the
seriously,
Yellowstone.
the Old Granddad bottled and bond makes a great old fashioned because it's not quite as sweet because it's got a little bit of heat to it. Because Old Granddad's a sweet bourbon,
Yeah.
but it's got enough. It's got a little bit of heat to it. Anyway, all right, I'll stop.
Did you know Old Granddad is Basil Hayden? Like
did
not
not.
it's not the same bottle. I mean, the guy's Basil Hayden's
did not know
nickname
that.
was Old Granddad.
No.
Yeah, isn't
Did
that
not
crazy?
know that.
I'm actually excited to try this IW Harper.
I'm very excited to try it.
86% corn in the mash bill, which so you would expect this to be a sweet because corn produces sugar, as I'm sure most of you know.
Right.
And so you
I
would
didn't,
expect this to be
obviously.
a little bit sweeter tasting. I'm curious to see if it is. I'm telling you, my coworkers and I drank the entire bottle that night. I literally had, I think, 2 glasses, 2 small glasses.
So my takeaway from that would be that your coworkers are raging alcoholics. Because if you only got 2
Well-
glasses out of that, I mean, there's a problem.
I could say there was a lot of them, but basically you're right, Steve. I don't want to throw my coworkers under the bus.
We just
but
won't say which coworkers.
Holy crap, they were.
I got to tell you,
It's the entire commercial team. Oh no, wait, I didn't say that.
definitely a lot of sweetness on the nose. It's not a sweetness on the nose. I have to say a quick story. You guys know Gilmore, Turbo's friend.
Yes.
So he was telling me a story about how he was in a hotel one time with a bunch of coworkers, and this guy from Texas, I think he said, they were throwing a little party, so everybody was bringing something, and this guy brought a bottle of. He was like telling everybody like, "Oh, I'm bringing something. I'm you guys are gonna be happy." And he brought a bottle of Pappy 20, and Gilly didn't know what it was. So he was like, "You brought one bottle of liquor? Like, what the fuck?" And he said he gave Gilly the first shot of it, and the first, whatever.
Yeah.
And he took it like a shot, just threw it back, and he was like, "What are you doing?"
As he cracks a Miller Lite.
It's okay.
So
He's like, "What? It's whiskey."
So it's funny that when I looked up to the tasting notes, that leather was such a large component because that's the first thing I smell and taste.
For sure.
And I'm not sure that I love that.
Well, and I got a shitload of citrus, fruit, just a ton.
Now that you say leather, I definitely smell leather, like freshly cleaned leather. Almost.
This is not nearly as sweet as I expected.
And I truly think that it's a very good bourbon. First off, I'm going to say that, but it's Tennessee, and I do think that there are definite differences of bourbons that you're going to get out of Indiana, Tennessee, versus Kentucky. They're just.
Yeah.
You think a lot of that has to do with the water?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do, and
I get a lot of leather.
I do get
I
leather.
do get a little bit of dark chocolate, which is not sweet, but
no,
a little bit of.
Yeah, there's a ton of leather, and there's almost like a back end smokiness.
Yeah.
Do you get that?
This isn't what I expected. I thought it would be overly sweet.
Yeah, I when I first smelled it, I thought that. And then when you said leather, I was like, I do get leather. The smokiness, I agree. Like on the finish, is that what you're talking about?
Back end finish.
I felt like there was almost a peatiness to it. Yeah.
Yes.
I hate that word.
So it's kind of an interesting story about.
He hates Scotch now.
It's kind of an interesting story, and it's interesting that they do 86 because you're going to find very few bourbons in Kentucky now that are 86 proof. I'm not saying there aren't any, because there are. But during Prohibition, and after Prohibition, and bourbon had its next boom coming in.
He's giving you the song.
Yeah.
You just got your own walking music.
Yeah, it's nice. So it had a nice boom, and then the next thing you know, everybody and their brother and their mother and maybe their grandmother popped up and started making bourbon.
Right.
And to make more, and I hate to use this word, dummy it down a little bit.
Not just dummy it down. They were trying to get the color and the taste without the aging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they went with 86 proof. And I didn't know this until I saw it or heard it. I used to always think that when
You were talking about after Prohibition, right?
right.
Yes.
So when I worked in the restaurant business, and I did for many years, and Dave has for more years than I have,
Sadly.
you would always, all the time you'd hear someone come in the kitchen and a chef would yell or someone would yell,
shit.
86 the shrimp,
Yeah.
86 the coconut shrimp,
It means it's gone.
86
It's
the
spoiled.
86 the fillets. Levert just dropped 6 of them on the floor.
Was that name Levert, by the way?
Levert, yes. I worked with a guy who was a grill cook.
His name was Levert?
His name was Levert, yeah.
That's a crazy name.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so my point being, I always thought it was a restaurant term, right? It came out of the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Here I come to find out that it actually is a bourbon term. And it came from the fact that when they made these lower proof bourbons at 86 proof, all of the main guys, the guys that have been there forever, would laugh and say, well, you want to make that bourbon, you can 86 it.
That's so crazy. Bourbon has so much to do with American history. It's insane. Basically, how the FDA works, checking foods and drugs, also started with bourbon that's bottled in bond.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I will say this does not taste anywhere like an 86 proof. This, to me, tastes more like 105 proof.
I agree. It's got a lot of bite.
It's got a lot of, it does.
It's got a lot of bite.
It's got a little bit of a kick to it.
I'm right now. I taste a decent amount of alcohol.
So the Widow Jane's 90 proof.
Yeah.
And the IW Harper's 86 proof. And I would have thought that the Widow Jane was 80 proof and the IW Harper was like 110.
And this gives me too much. It's too much leather,
Yes.
and it's
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
much smoky.
yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's good, but I don't love it.
It reminds me of a Scotch.
Little
Honestly, it has a little bit of a Scotch to it. To me, it's not a Scotch. I'm just saying
I like it a little better with water.
It's
good, but it's
to put
not
water in it.
I don't know that I'll buy another bottle of it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I would definitely right now put the. I think I'm going.
We screwed up. We should have let. You're right. We should have had the Widow Jane last.
Yep. We might have to taste these again.
Yeah, reverse order.
Well, I didn't have any say-so on the lineup. I just want that to be known.
Me and Jeff were just in immediate agreement.
Yeah. Okay. You're like, oh, no, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do it that way. I'm going to scratch his belly, and I'm going to scratch my belly.
Jesus.
I can't tell you how bad I want a cigarette, but you
Tommy,
cannot smoke a cigarette.
Tommy Two Phones, if you're listening, help. Help.
By the way, did you guys hear about Tommy Two Phones?
No.
He he just got out yesterday. He was in the hospital for like 3 days.
You okay?
Yeah, he had it was not corona. It was
liver transplant.
Yeah, diverticulitis.
Oh,
yeah.
And they are
that's not pleasant.
They have traced it back to our podcast in his bourbon tasting.
Yeah,
flared up that diverticulitis.
It was weird. They actually gave a specific date. It was really, really weird.
Wait, anybody that listens to the last 30 minutes of that podcast, I think he was in a bout of diverticulitis.
And I haven't got there yet. I have not got
there
yet.
Man, wait till you get there. He's in a different state.
Listen, you're losing control of this podcast. I would like to say that I added water to this, and I didn't notice a lot of difference.
I actually I had so little left because I kept drinking up before I added water. So I got to add a little. I literally just thought, whose mouth did that thing come out of? And I realized it's your dip thing. Shh. I was like, what in the fuck is that?
He's not supposed to do that.
We're not speaking about
There's a fish in there.
We don't know.
He's got cancer.
We don't know who might be listening to this.
I need to see. Where's that bottle at? I need to see it again. Right in front of me. There you go.
It is a beautiful bottle, though. I have to say. That is one of the finest bottles.
Here's the other thing I'm going to say. In I.W. Harper's defense, I think this is a really good bourbon. I think we are backing. We are putting it up against some fantastic bourbons that we've already had. And that's a tough thing to do. If we had it first, we might be waxing poetic about it, taking off our shirts, squeezing our nipples. I mean,
for those of you listening, Steve's shirt is already off.
Yeah, he's actually not been wearing a shirt for the past 20
hairy
minutes.
Nipples are exposed. That's the only hairy part of his body that I've heard that he has, but that's neither here nor there.
I do get better smell from it for sure with adding the water.
Yeah.
It does shock me, though, that it's 15 years. That part shocks me.
Yeah.
But here's another thing that I've heard.
But I think that might be where the bite is coming from. Like something didn't go the way they wanted it to, or the way they wanted it to, and that's how it is.
And it also makes me think, and I'm not trying to get too highbrow here. I really am not. So when you char a barrel, you have 5 levels. Level 1 being the least amount of char. To me, it seems like they're using the least amount of char on this. For it to be a 15-year, we should be getting a lot more
oak.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot more wood, and I'm not getting really any wood.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. That was really nice of you to share with the crowd. Jesus. All right, I got to go now.
I've got this bourbon gives me 0 wood.
Maybe I'm relieved though that you're not getting any wood here, since there's 4 guys.
God, am I glad I'm 6 feet away from you.
Jesus.
Like, I will say it's
social distancing with Dave Hammer.
Yeah, that's how I keep the distance.
You wish.
So it is good, but I really do think we really caused a problem by putting that Widow Jane first.
I told you, Widow is top shelf.
I don't know. I keep hearing whispering. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I hear whispering.
You know who it is. You know,
I'm going to give you
a comedian. You know,
I forget.
It's Jim Gaffigan.
So
I can't believe she's only 10.
Wait,
She looks a lot older. She looks
Louis K.
You know the best thing about a 10-year-old girl?
Oh God,
Jacob, what's his name? Louis or
CK.
CK Louis.
CK
Oh,
Louis.
God.
Louis CK.
Louis CK. So he has a new comedy special out that he put out on his website. It is hysterical.
I'll check
I don't
it
know
out
if you
for
guys.
sure.
And he talks about, obviously, the last year that he's gone through. And it made me think about, with your whispering, because, of course, we all know what he was accused of, and he makes light of it, and it is really funny stuff.
Well, the crazy thing is he got accused of, not accused of, he did it. He admitted to it, to beating off in front of people. The crazy thing is he asked for permission every time.
Right. And that's what he said. And he talks about it in there. Yeah. I'm telling you, you got to watch it. Anybody out there, sincerely, Louis C.K., you got to do it. And it's on YouTube, so it's free.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Wow.
Because I do think he's hilarious. It's unfortunate that happened, but, he was polite about it.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
Excuse me, would you mind if I
Seriously.
myself?
And there's some women comedians that were like, yeah, we just told him he could.
So, getting back to my whispering, I did see Jim Gaffigan live up in Pittsburgh at the...
I'm jealous.
I'm jealous
what's
of that
that
too.
called? The Works at the... You know where I mean. Oh, it's probably been 15 years ago. I mean, before he was really, really famous, and he was hilarious. And he did the whole whispering thing in between.
It's so
and,
funny.
I mean, talk about stomach hurt, face hurt, tears rolling down the cheeks, laughing. Absolutely hysterical. And then, next thing I know, 5 years later, he's on HBO and doing specials. And
he's tremendous.
he's funny. He's a funny guy.
Me and Jacob had fucking tickets to...
Jacob and I.
Jesus Christ with this.
You're welcome, Pam.
We had...
she's going to listen to this. She'll be proud of me.
Yeah. We had tickets to Joe Rogan this month.
Oh, jeez.
Right? Yeah.
Into this next weekend. Actually.
Next weekend, yeah. Did I told you it got rescheduled, right? Yeah.
Where?
In Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Which he doesn't do very often, so we were really excited about it. He's kind of the inspiration for the podcast because I
thinks it's gonna take place.
but it's September now, so
That's all right. It should be a cool by then.
So
we'll see if it happens.
And I'll give you a little shout out. One of my coworkers I was talking to the other day, and we were just talking about work stuff, and then she said, "Oh, and by the way, I hear you like bourbon." And of course I get a confused look, and she's like, "Listen, my husband works midnights, and he loves Joe Rogan, and he listens to a lot of podcasts." And right away I knew what she was talking about. And her comment to me was, or her husband made to her was, "Your boss is cool as shit. He really likes bourbon. I'd like to drink bourbon with him." So I'm going to make a shout out to him right now. Listen, I'd be happy to drink bourbon with you.
Yeah, and hey, you never know. Maybe you'll make an appearance for a tasting.
I don't want this guy to think he's special or anything, because you'll drink bourbon with anybody.
Oh, come on now.
I'm kidding. Just kidding.
Come on.
I mean, look,
I appreciate you listening, and I thought that was a really nice thing that you said.
Yeah.
So keep listening, please.
And I very much appreciate you listening. So keep listening.
Pain in the ass to work for, but boy, he'll be fun to drink with.
Wow.
But have you guys listened to Joe Rogan's stand-up?
I have.
His old stuff was not good. His last two, incredible.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I've only heard the old stuff.
You've only heard the old
And
stuff?
it was just, but it wasn't bad. I don't think it was bad.
It was pretty bad. But the last two, Triggered, and then the other one after that is Strange Times. They're both on Netflix.
On Netflix, okay.
Yeah, he literally. So when he first started, and I liked his podcast. I did not like his stand-up. Then those two came out, and now he's with those two. He's probably in my top 5 or 6.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm good.
By the way, what did you think of that Widow?
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, that's really good. I like it.
Do you like it better? Do you like it better than Four Roses?
It's in its own way.
They're different.
Yeah,
they're definitely different.
Yeah.
I do like the Widow better for sure.
I'm glad you said that, Jacob, because it's a good point to bring up. There can be really good bourbons that you can't quantify or say, well, I like this bourbon better than that, because they're just too different, but you like them equally the same.
It's kind of like when we tasted the New Riff.
Yes.
That was just wildly different than anything I'd tasted.
Yeah.
Listen, picture us sitting here doing a wine tasting and having a Malbec, a Cabernet, a Pinot,
Right.
a Merlot, and God forbid, a Brunello.
Right.
And we taste all 5 of them, but the one we tasted first happened to be the one we liked the best.
Yeah.
And so the other 4 or 5 were shit.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the case if you open one of those bottles first.
Right.
So
Well, and like I said, I think we fucked up because I think the first one we tasted is immediately jumping into my top 5, maybe 3.
Right.
It's really good.
Easy now, easy. We haven't finished yet.
It's really good.
One other comedian I want to give a shout out to people so that in case they don't know about him and they are looking to fill some time during this pandemic, Sebastian
Holy shit.
Come on,
Maniscalco.
No.
Spell it.
Nope.
All right, wait. Let me put my readers back on.
Oh, maybe
there it is.
Maniscalco.
that might be right. I didn't think that's how you said it
Maniscalco.
though, because I've heard it. I just heard it said today because they were talking about it. But maybe
Maniscalco.
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 He is fucking
I'll
hilarious.
take the fettuccine and
It
the
ends in
Maniscalco.
CO. It's Scalco.
Maniscalco.
Maniscalco.
The last one he had on Netflix
Born in
was incredible.
Arlington Heights, Illinois, by the way.
I mean, this
Highly
guy.
Italian neighborhood.
This guy is
Listen,
hysterical.
I got a story for you about him. His not, I don't know him.
It doesn't
personally or
involve a
anything
10-year-old
Do you
girl.
know he's
please.
married to Lana Gomez?
like that. Look, Jeff loves that Jacob pulls this shit
Thank
all
you,
up.
Jacob.
Well, and he's in the prime seat. Like sometimes I don't even look to my left.
Yeah. But his cousin has the exact same name, and these people tried to rob him because they thought it was him, and he beat the shit out of the first one. They came into his house. The one had a gun and had like his wife and daughter on the bed. His cousin, not him. And after he beat the shit out of the first guy and got him out of the house, he ran back upstairs and disarmed the guy, and then shot him with his own gun and killed him.
This guy right here?
No, his cousin.
All right.
Of the same name.
Same name, exact same name.
First question.
Wow.
Why
How
does
do
he
you
have?
know this?
Why does he have the exact same name?
Weird, right? I have no idea. So weird.
That's like George Foreman calling all 7 of his children George.
Yeah. I only
Yeah,
know.
but what
And
about
the
a
daughter
cousin?
was Georgiana.
But the cousin, so the brothers or sisters named their kid the exact same name.
And
Well, it's
maybe-
brothers, obviously, because they got the same last name, right?
Right.
I'm Sebastian. I'm Sebastian.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, this is cousins, and I only know about this because of the Joe Rogan podcast because he's friends with them, and
That's
he was
crazy.
just talking about it on the podcast today. But it's the second time I heard the story. He was just talking about because one of Joe's friends told him that that Sebastian got robbed, and he was like, "What?" So he texts Sebastian. He's like, "No, honestly, it's my cousin with the same name," and then told him the full story.
Wow.
Yeah, so he killed the guy.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's crazy is his accomplice is the one getting charged with murder, because when you do a crime that results in a death, you get charged.
Okay.
That usually is the case, Dave.
No, but he didn't shoot him though. You know what I'm saying? Like the two criminals,
Yeah?
Sebastian killed one of the criminals.
Okay.
The other
The
guy
other
that was
criminal that didn't get shot got charged with his accomplice's murder.
Oh, okay. I lost you there for a minute because I was
Yeah.
actually doing a bourbon tasting, which is what we're here for.
But this is what makes it so good. You get off on tangents. We educate people.
This probably is the most sidetracked we've gotten on one of these, though. Which I
First
love.
taste.
Yeah.
This is a big bourbon.
First smell. Yo, it's big.
Are we calling this? Wait. Should we call it a big boy bourbon?
Big George Magnus.
Which, by the way, is this bothering anybody? This right here. Are you picking that up?
It's not picking
Wait,
up.
it's not
Okay,
George.
good.
It's Joseph. I'm sorry. I thought it was George Magnus. Big Joe.
All
Joey.
right, don't say anything
I
yet.
just said it's a big bourbon.
I haven't tasted it
That's
yet.
all I said. It's a big bourbon.
And you know I have high expectations.
Yes.
He thinks he knows bourbon.
There's the dead air. I told you guys. This is what I hear in the car. I'm like,
Yeah, but we're waiting. We're really waiting in anticipation now for Steve here.
because he doesn't want us to speak about it until he
Yeah.
tastes
No,
it.
no. Go ahead. You guys can speak about
Oh no,
it.
no.
now.
You're going first. I told you it's a big
So-
bourbon. That's all you're getting.
So I got a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
More than I expected.
Okay.
For this price point.
That's exactly what I thought the first time I tried it. And the second time I tried it, I was pretty drunk, and I thought, oh, it's a lot of spices.
So I'm anxious to have the second sip, and this is going to give me a chance to give a little soliloquy about bourbon drinking.
Foster Brooks.
So
I like bourbon.
when you try a bourbon, when you try a bourbon and you have your first taste, it's going to be a shock to your system, especially if you've had nothing else to drink that night. You must give it a second, third, and fourth try.
Here, here.
And even beyond that, and I even said this about Statesman last time, it needs you need time to try it. So don't just discount it and take it to the country club and say, here's my bottle of Five Roses single barrel because I don't like it. Because I only had 2 sips.
It burned.
2 things. First,
It's 4 roses.
2 things. Yeah, exactly. That was the first thing.
Oh, what did I say? 5
Yeah, he said 5 roses. Second thing, you're lucky I didn't have that bourbon in my mouth yet because I would have spit it fucking everywhere.
Yes.
Jeff would have been covered in bourbon.
Well, that's all right. I had enough water I spilled earlier to go with it. So.
I've just created a new label, 5 Roses.
It's our new label.
Have you ever been 5-figured? Try our 5
Here we
Roses.
go. Have you ever been fisted? Try our 5 Roses bourbon.
Check out our channel on Pornhub.com.
God, they bring me down.
Make a fist.
Jesus.
Try it. 5 Roses. It's
This
delicious.
is so wrong. I hope this is edited.
Nope.
Jesus.
So
No,
my
but-
second
but-
taste was much better.
But and Steve, you're 1,000% right because somebody's going to try bourbon for the first time and go, "Oh my God, it burns." Give it a chance. Have another little sip. Maybe put a cube in it. Maybe put a drop of water in it. Let it lighten up a little bit. Keep trying it.
Yeah,
Listen,
I agree.
Dave's been drinking bourbon for 6 months, 8 months,
Oh, God, not even that probably.
and he's
4 or 5.
Four,
already
yeah.
heading towards higher proof bourbons because
Yeah.
they have more flavor.
Yeah.
Because 120 proof bourbon has less water in it than a 90 proof bourbon.
Yeah,
so
I-
it's more flavor. Anyway, Steve's exactly right. You got to give it a chance.
And definitely, I would definitely say try not to go with the 80. I mean, you can start with the 80, but I would say try to hit 85 to 90, somewhere around there for starting.
And the thing about it is, it's almost, and I don't know if there's any scientific fact to this. I always like, and
I
Pam,
do have to just correct myself. I
is
meant
getting better.
in the 90s. In the 90s, not just 90 flat.
yeah.
Like 1990s.
So
I love them.
This is actually getting better.
Yeah,
Pam-
that's
Pam-
exactly how I felt the first time.
It is. This is getting better as I drink it.
So Pam always likes to make fun of me because she says I will say things as they're fact, and there's actually no factual basis whatsoever of what I just said.
But you do them in fun ways, not conspiracy ways.
Right. So what I'm about to tell you, there's no factual basis. So I want to preface that first. But in my opinion, you have to accustom your tongue and the back end of your tongue to bourbon, and especially to higher proof bourbon. So when you first try it, it's going to be immediate shock, like, oh my God, this has so much bite. But it truly doesn't have that bite.
Right.
So you got to get through that.
Yeah.
And as you have it and you have more bourbons, you get that palate for it.
I mean, it actually does have the bite, but you just get used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you do. You get used to it.
And because you get used to it, though, you
becomes
pick up
easier
the
and
flavors.
easier, right.
Exactly. You don't acknowledge the flavors at first. Literally, what the problem with my first 4 Rose single barrel tasting was, not only was it the first bourbon I ever tried neat instead of on ice or anything, but it was also the first time I ever drank out of a Glencairn type glass.
So
And
you got the whole
I
aroma, the nose.
I didn't know how to drink out of it. I fucked myself all up on it, and I was like, "This is gasoline." And then I have it over at the country club after donating it, and I'm like, I fucked up.
Yeah, the country club thanks you.
Next time I'm there, though, I will donate another bottle.
I hope it's not fucking Yellowstone.
God damn it!
So
It's Weller Special Reserve,
We'll take that. That's okay.
just because of the name.
Yep. Mark it up for $10 a shot.
Call
And
it
the-
a day.
yeah, there you go. And the thing that's crazy about this particular bourbon that we're trying is we can't give you specifics as year because they don't have it. Again, it's rumored that it's around 9 years. But the description that they pull up online describes the nose as paint thinner and hot asphalt.
Is that what it says on there?
don't forget citrus and chocolate dipped oranges.
That's hilarious.
But when you throw paint thinner and hot asphalt in, it's hard to even notice the other two.
Yeah.
But I will say, I've had 3 sips now, and my third sip was better than the second, and definitely than the first.
Yeah,
It keeps getting-
I agree completely. Yep.
So it
I
makes.
don't know though. This was a was this a $95 bottle?
85.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have a hard time.
Might be a little high for the.
Yeah, I might have a hard time buying this bottle.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. I mean,
I'm
if
adding
I
the
come,
water
I'm going to pour
now.
if I come
myself
back
a
to
little
your
bit
place
more.
and you got this here, I'll have one with you.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would buy a bottle of it.
Yeah. I got to try it with the water. We still haven't done that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thanks, Tommy. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much.
No,
Can I
we should
have
be
the,
thanking Donald Trump. I mean, I'm sure he got the letter with the autographed signature that said you got a stimulus check.
Mm-hmm.
So, to the greatest president in my lifetime. Well, that's going to piss some people off.
My mother and your mother.
Don't say it, Steve.
I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm just teasing. It's a teaser. I'll finish it. I'll finish the last part next podcast.
Jesus.
I'm just trying to guarantee my way back in. That's all.
You're
so,
always
so
in. You're
am I
locked
for the
in.
Jefferson's tasting because,
I'm excited for that one.
yeah, the Pritchard Hill and the Groth.
Yeah.
I'm almost thinking as a service to your listeners, we should do those tonight.
Well, listen, we can
I can't disagree.
listen. We won't do them as a tasting, but when after we get done with this and I take a quick bathroom break, we will pour ourselves a glass.
How about Steve and I do a tasting while you're in a bathroom break?
No, but not the Groth because we got to save the Groth. But we can taste that Pritchard. We got to save the Groth for the actual tasting.
Why don't we just do a tasting for the listeners of the Pritchard while we're on air?
I don't want to. Listen. We already discussed how we ruined our taste buds with Widow Jane before we taste all
All
these.
right, I'll
We've
tell you what we
tasted
need
all
to do.
these.
At the end. So let's have another Widow Jane and confirm what we thought.
No.
After all
No. That's a horrible idea.
We are.
If we're gonna do anything, we're gonna taste another one.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
taste the Pritchard for sure. But we got to save that Jefferson tasting is a great idea. But we'll taste the Pritchard for sure.
It worked.
Oh, we could have done that regardless. We just can't finish the bottle.
Tickle, tickle. Jeff just went tickle, tickle.
It was weird. It was right underneath my chin.
Oh yeah, it was strange.
I'm just
I
glad.
mean-
I'm just glad you didn't say irregardless.
I
Because
just-
I would have had to correct you on that too.
I mean, I just as watching
That's
it,
a
I
silly
feel
thing to say.
demasculated.
Oh man.
Demasculation.
All right. So real quick because I also have this 90-year-old bladder, so I got to piss too.
Really?
So
you do.
oh, it's a problem. So let's go through and Jeff, you're the newcomer to the podcast, so
Okay.
you're going to start
What do you
ranking yours,
Well,
starting with number 1 down to
all
5.
right, I'm going 1A, Widow Jane, and 1B, Henry McKenna. I think number 2 is probably the Joseph Magnus. 3 would be the IW, and 7 would be the Yellowstone. I skipped obviously 4, 5, and 6 because that's how I felt about the.
Wow.
Yeah,
You're not gonna be-
I did not like the
All right.
Yellowstone.
So
at
no
all.
Christmas card for you next year
That's
from
okay.
IW.
That's okay. Well, no. The Yellowstone was last.
Oh, I'm
IW
sorry, Yellowstone.
yeah.
It's Yellowstone.
I got the
sorry.
Magnus above the IW because the second and third drink of the Magnus, I
It
kind of
kept
liked.
getting better.
I guess the IW was good. I was a little disappointed it didn't have a sweeter profile to it because I expected that with the
I agree.
86% corn.
Yeah.
I agree.
And, and the night we all drank it as fellow employees, I mean, everybody loved it, and that was the only bourbon we had that night. And I mean to tell you, well, let me back up and say we had already been drinking that night. But at the end of the night, I mean, there were glasses and cups, and it's like, give me more. It was delicious that night. And again, like Steve said earlier, it's hard to compare after you do one before the other,
Right.
Or when you have your first bourbon. So, don't give up on something just because it might not be perfect for you the first night.
Especially don't give it
The
away.
Magnus and the IW Harper are probably delicious bourbons if we had them by themselves.
Yeah.
But following the Widow
You notice he
and the
didn't
Henry
say
McKenna,
Yellowstone.
I told you how I feel, but I don't think I've left any doubt how I feel about the Yellowstone. It is,
It's like me and larceny.
It
Right,
sounds
right.
like you're almost considering it like a kidney stone.
well, Yellowstone, kidney stone, yellow snow. We can go a lot of different directions here, but yellow apparently it
It's
probably
a
has.
theme.
It probably does have piss in it, but
That's
I
how I
think
felt about
the
the
Widow
Bolger.
Jane stood out for me, and the Henry McKenna was right there with it.
Yeah.
Two very different bourbons in that the McKenna's has definitely got a spicier taste, and the
Right.
Widow's got a sweeter taste. So,
For sure.
but I don't think the Magnus and the Harper. I mean, they're good, and I think if we had them by themselves, we'd probably be sitting here going, "Oh my God, these were delicious."
To me, I think the Magnus distinguished itself from the
I.W. Harper.
I.W. Harper with just a little bit more overall flavor.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's probably what I'd say
Yeah.
too. So anyway, that's my thoughts.
All right,
Steve?
So Henry McKenna is my 1. Widow Jane is my 2. And I liked both batches, and I think they're both really, really good.
Yeah.
There were definitely differences, which we've already described. I don't need to go into detail. Sadly, and I say it sadly because my expectations, as you know, were extremely high
They
for
were
the
a lot
Joseph
higher,
Magnus. I'm going to put that as 3.
Yeah.
And I go I.W. Harper next.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to put Yellowstone in the rear view mirror tonight. And what I will say about Yellowstone and where I think their niche market will be is it's Yellowstone, right?
Yeah.
So, Yellowstone Park, I believe, gets millions of visitors every year. Just have the Yellowstone bourbon there for people. Make it a niche. This is our bourbon. You come in with your pass, your ticket. You get a little
You're
nip.
gonna get one, damn it.
You're gonna get a little nip of Yellowstone.
Whether you want it or not.
Right. So that's where I believe that belongs. I won't buy it. It's not gonna find its way to my bar. Now,
let me ask you a question, Steve. If it was $16.99, would you buy a bottle? Because it's $35. Is that right?
35.
If it was half price, would you buy it?
no.
Yeah,
I don't
agree.
need it, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't need it at my bar. Because I wouldn't have a use for it. I wouldn't make an old fashioned with it.
Well, when Jan comes over.
Okay, I would buy it then.
For $16.99.
Yeah.
Well, because it's going to get mixed with Diet
Diet
Coke.
Coke. Yeah.
But I question whether it would even be. I mean, I know Diet Coke's going to mask it to a
Diet
certain.
Coke's going to mask everything. There's
That's
no way
right.
around
Yeah,
it.
and
But why
Jan,
not?
I love you, but she'll drink anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why not just take Jim Beam or Jack
Right.
Daniels?
Right.
And,
Yeah.
Yep.
It's for a much better
Heaven
price.
Hill.
But that's my lineup. I think it's very similar to yours, if not pretty.
Well, and I
pretty
had
close.
1A and 1B, and you had 1 and 2. And listen, we could flip those easily, and they stood out by far. The Widow and Henry.
We're all
Hank.
going to be very similar because
Yeah.
I'm going to go, and I was shocked. I'm shocked by this because I thought when we started the tasting and Henry McKenna was in it that I already knew what my number 1 was going to be. I'm going Widow Jane, and then I'm going McKenna, and then I'm going Magnus. And I don't hate the Yellowstone as much as Jeff. I will agree with him that I would not purchase it again, but I do not hate it as much. I definitely would not purchase it at a $35 cost, which is surprising to me because when I tasted it the first night, granted I had a couple of bourbons before it, I thought, oh yeah, this is decent. And
It all goes back to when you taste it in your
it's
repertoire of drinks.
to me it's nowhere near as bad as Larceny or the Weller Special Reserve.
And I would drink Larceny before that every
Really?
day of the week.
God,
But you got to look at what we combined it with.
yeah.
Plus,
We're talking 4 high-end,
Yeah.
expensive bourbons, and then we have Yellowstone.
Yeah, we put it up against
like-
that
Yeah,
should have
it's a
been the
tough.
first taste.
Yeah.
It really
It
should have.
should have been. Yeah.
It should have been the first
and
taste.
It had no chance to.
and I will say that.
none.
And I will say this: if you had Yellowstone, let's just say you came home from work one night and you just grabbed that, had nothing else to drink,
Yeah,
and just put it on a rock.
Yeah.
you'd probably be like, damn, this is pretty good.
Yeah, and it's 100% a rock.
Yeah.
It's 100%.
I agree completely.
Yeah, 100% a rock.
But you're right, Steve. You come home and it's like, oh yeah, all right.
It's sad how excited I get to get home from work now.
That's how my love affair started with Buffalo Trace, because for a long time I was anti-Buffalo Trace.
Really?
And I was because I knew it was like the lowest end, or I thought at the time. I didn't know about Benchmark at that time. I thought it was the lowest end Buffalo Trace product, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I love Blanton's. I love Weller's. I've been fortunate enough to have Pappy's. I'm not having Buffalo Trace. I mean, that's like, what is that, peasant water? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And
it's so good.
And but if you have it and you don't drink the other high-end bourbons, you're like, oh my God, this is phenomenal.
It's excellent. Buffalo Trace grows on me every time. Like, I literally have that. I have that shelf like how I expect it to go, and that is on. I really consider that the second shelf because the top two shelves are really the top shelf. He's getting a little sexual with the bottle. Actually, real quick before we pause, I do want maybe give your glass a little rinse and just taste the Benchmark, just a little bit of it before I go take this piss.
All right, even with the out of the plastic jug.
Wait,
it's okay.
am I confused? Am I supposed to pee in my glass and then have the Benchmark,
Just take a little taste of it. I just want to
or
see.
allow you to pee in my glass?
I guarantee you like it better than the Yellowstone.
I like how grippy the bottle is. That's nice.
So I don't know that you know this, Dave, and I think Steve does, but I have tasted all of the Pappies except for the 25.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The 10, 12, 15, 18, and 21.
I've only tasted the 12.
I have actually tasted all those. I was.
What did we have? And I don't mean to interrupt you, but just real quick, what did we have?
We had the 12
at Dudes. That was the
Dudes
20.
was the 21.
21. Okay.
Yeah.
Dude,
21.
Dude
yeah.
Kessler.
Yes.
Wait,
Yeah.
I think there's a 21.
I thought it was
23.
a 23.
I think it is 23, but there's also a 25. It is a 23.
Okay. I thought so.
So I was at visiting a customer out in St. Louis and staying in my hotel 20 minutes from where the customer's place is, and going to go to dinner that night by myself. And so I get on my computer and I'm looking, best Italian restaurants near me, and these places come up. So I either have to go to what's called the Hill in St. Louis, which is phenomenal Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
But it's like 40 minutes away, or I can go east and they're like 20 minutes away, and there were some really good reviews. So I said, I'll go 20 minutes away. This place here looks good. So I walk in, of course, I'm by myself, and girl says, how many? One. Yeah, sad look on my face. Yes,
no.
Oh, poor guy. And
is it because your hair's parted in the middle?
She's like, you look like David Cassidy. Did you sing? No. Anyway, so I said, would you mind if I sat in the bar?
Did she actually say the David Cassidy part?
No, but
Okay,
shut up.
that
Dave.
was good.
So she said, I said, can I sit in the bar? They had booths in the bar. It was a lot like like being at the Ville.
Yeah,
they had
yeah.
booths across the street, across from the bar.
Yeah.
So I go in and I sit at a booth. I'm by myself. And I'm looking at the menu, and I don't even really pay attention to the bar. It's right there. And I'm looking. I find a glass of wine that I like, and thinking I'm going to have Italian. I'm going to have a glass of wine. So I order a glass of wine, and it comes. And in the meantime, I'm looking at the bar. I'm going, holy shit. They got Buffalo Trace napkin things that are, very prevalent.
Holy shit.
And I look up at the bar, and it's like they've got Buffalo Trace, they've got Blanton's, they've got Eagle Trace.
Eagle Rare.
Eagle Rare. And then I look all the way up on top. They had all the Pappies.
Holy shit.
That's what I said. So.
Doesn't matter what your bill is at this point.
Well, and
expense trip.
I'm out of town, right? So,
expense again.
Hey, let's keep this quiet in case one of my.
Well,
sorry.
Anyway, so
let's remember that there were business people, customers with you, right?
Yeah, so I look across the table at my customer, and I say, hey,
let's
Matt.
get the Pappy 25.
I said, Matt, have you ever had Pappy Van Winkle? And he said, what's that? Okay, we'll fast forward. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the girl comes over to wait on me, and she says, you know what you want? I said, yeah, I want that. And I point to the upper shelf, and she says, which one in particular? And she said, we have the 10, the 12, the 15, the 18, and the 21.
Holy fuck.
And I said, Dave, that's what I said.
Holy shit.
She didn't hear me, though. So I had already had the 12, and I said, give me the 15. So I said, what are the prices? And she told me the prices, and they weren't really obnoxious. I said, let me start with the 15. So I ordered the 15. It
I
comes
like
over.
the start.
It was fantastic. Very oaky.
Yeah.
I mean, it was spectacular. And so I finished that, and she comes back, and I said, all right, so let me try the 18. And so she brings me the 18. It was not nearly as good.
Oh, really?
Not nearly as oaky. And I told her, I said, it's okay. I said, but I really like the 15 better. At this point in time, the owner comes over. Apparently, my waitress had said, hey, we got a guy drinking Pappy.
Yeah.
And he's had 2 already.
Yeah.
So, hey,
And he looks like a Pappy lover.
really, man.
He looks like he's going to go his way up the ladder.
So I feel this fish hook in my mouth. Anyway, so the owner comes over, introduces himself, and says, so I noticed you're drinking Pappy tonight. I'm like, yeah. And I had one drink that was, I don't know, $20 and one drink that was $30. And, they were nice pours, though. They were 2 ounces.
Well,
they were very generous pours. I was very pleased.
And that's probably
And my customer, the important thing is my customer was very pleased.
And you realize
So-
that's because I'm sure hardly anyone ever comes in there and orders
That's
Pappy.
right.
So they're
Because
so
the
excited.
price, yeah, the price.
Yeah.
It's right. It's
But
price
that's a good
prohibitive.
price.
Oh, yeah.
I'm working at
Yeah, they weren't
Kroger's,
bad.
and I'd not pay my car bill for that.
So the owner comes over, introduces himself, really nice, personable guy, and he starts talking to me. He goes, well, have you had this? Have you had the 10 year? I said, yeah, I've had the 10. I said, or I've had the 12. I said, I had the 15, I had the 18. I said, I really like the 15. He goes, oh, you like the oaky stuff. He said, you got to try the 18. He calls the waitress over. He goes, give him an 18 on me. I'm like,
Oh, beautiful.
I love you.
Yeah. You hugged him.
So the 18 comes.
Which,
and
where are you sleeping tonight?
So we're getting along great. I'm about to ask him on a date, and the 18 comes, and it's a lot like the
It's a lot like the 15.
I'm sorry.
You're
Wait a
18.
minute.
You
I
had
had the 18. He orders me the 12. He says, try the 12.
I love the 12.
That's what he gives me. So he said the 12's a lot like the
fantastic.
15. So the 12 comes. I taste it. I go, oh, yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, based on what you told me, it's oaky like the 15. I thought you'd like that. So he says, I got another one for you to try. It's the E.H. Taylor, or the 4-grain, which if you read, you see a little bit about how rare that is. He told me it cost him $400 a bottle to get that.
No shit.
So he sends me the 4-grain. It's outstanding.
Yeah.
So I'm going, oh, my God, this is awesome. He said, so what haven't you had? And I said, well, I had the 23. And he goes, my other restaurant has the 25, but I don't. He goes, but I have the 21. He goes, hey, get him the 21. I'm like, I am seriously in love with you.
He has now ejaculated in his pants.
At this point, you guys are holding hands.
Would you like to join me tonight? So the 21 comes. So I've got, and I sent you a picture, Steve, I think, of all the Glencairn glasses.
You
that were in
did.
front of me.
I threw shit against the wall. I was
Honestly,
so
it
upset
was
I
like-
wasn't with you.
They didn't take any of my glasses after I finished the
They
drinks.
just left them sit there.
And I had 5 glasses across the way. I had, the 10, the 12, the 15, the 18, the 4-grain. So the 21 comes, and I taste it. I go, oh, geez, this is spectacular. And he proceeds to tell me that they go to Buffalo Trace and pick out their own barrel of Buffalo Trace, and they actually market it and label it as Buffalo Trace single barrel.
No shit.
And they sold it for, did I tell you, like $28 a bottle?
Yeah.
Maybe 38, 28 or 30. And I said, oh, he goes, we got a few left if you want one. And I said, oh, I'll absolutely get one before I leave. I said, that's,
Yeah.
I don't ever have
Holy
the
shit.
opportunity. So I sit there drinking these drinks. I'm snapping pictures. I'm sending them back to Steve. I'm eating, and I finish, and the waitress comes over, and I pay my bill. And, at this point, it's a little bit fuzzy. And I get up and leave. And the next morning I go, fuck, I forgot to get a bottle of the single barrel Buffalo Trace.
Son of a bitch.
But and I'll go back to St. Louis after this pandemic ends, for customer visits, and I would go back to that restaurant every single
Listen,
time. And I've got his name, his card, his phone number, and I'll look him up. And
I'll make that trip with you.
I was just gonna say I'm going on that trip.
And I moved here from St. Louis.
There are nursing homes in St. Louis, from what I understand. I can go. What's beautiful about that story is he talks about how he's texting me these photos, and I'm like, motherfucker.
You had to be so upset.
Oh,
actually, no.
I mean, like
what he
excited.
texted me was, "I'm really happy for you." I sensed a lot of sarcasm in the text.
Why are you holding that guy's hand?
I'd like you to meet my husband.
Did I not see a 5 finger in the back of his ass, or am I just seeing things? Okay, I'm sorry. I know you got to go.
All right, I'm gonna piss myself, so we're gonna take a quick break. That's incredible.
He doesn't have a
I'm definitely taking
diaper
that
on.
trip with you.
It was a great trip.
He needs to wear a diaper.
Hey, what's with Buddha?
What's with Buddha? And we're back, obviously. But what's with Buddha? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, why?
This was actually my dad's.
Okay.
And
that's cool.
It's one of the things it's one of the few things I got that. The only thing I wanted was his ring, and I got that because he had it from the time I can remember.
Nice.
And I didn't care about anything else. I wanted that ring. And then this was over there, and he was always very big into Asian art,
women?
Things like
Oh,
that.
sorry.
He actually did marry an Asian woman once, Chinese. My mom, him and my mom got divorced for years and then remarried. And in between there, he married a Chinese woman named Michelle. She was a fucking psychopath. But
may love you long time.
yeah, but he also had this as one of his things, and
that's really cool.
I grabbed that because I wanted to have something from my dad on here because
Nice.
he never got to listen to it or anything.
Aw.
And then also I pulled this out today and I grabbed it. My dad's main business was Little League. And
Really?
yeah, Little League was his main business for lapel pins and coins and stuff like that. But that was the predominant part of his business. And we went to 2 places every year. We went to Williamsport, Pennsylvania for the Little League World Series. And we went to Michigan. It's still Little League, but it's called the Junior League World Series. And we went there. And Michigan every year does a coin to like put somebody to remember somebody. And the year he passed away, they actually did my dad, who his only contribution to Little League was doing the pin business.
That's awesome.
But they knew him so well and liked him so much that they did a coin for him.
It's
wow,
great.
that's a great story.
So I also put that on the table.
I'm glad I asked. That's really a good story, Dave.
Very good.
He actually
Love it.
He pretty much, you know how pin trading is a big thing in Little League?
Absolutely.
Huge.
He actually my dad, this is going to sound absurd, but it's true. He pretty much started that.
Wow.
He was working for a trophy company in California called Wilson Trophy Company, and they had a whole bunch on the West Coast. They had a bunch of other ones. And one day a couple customers came in and they asked to do some pins just for some random thing. And he was like, So he came up with the idea to do not just recognition pins for Little League, but also custom pins for people to trade. And at the time, Little League wasn't giving anybody a license to use their emblem and things like that.
Yeah.
So he went to he kept trying to get a license. They wouldn't give him a license. He ended up just doing it anyway. So they sent him, I don't know what the lawsuit entailed, but they sent him a lawsuit. They sent him a cease and desist is what they sent him. Cease and desist, stop. And he sent back a lawsuit.
Nice.
And what they ended up settling on was he got a license.
That's such a
nice.
That's such a great story. It's really cool.
It really is. Yeah.
So he weirdly kind of
basically F you.
Yeah. And he
won.
And yeah, he won, and then that's basically how that big pin trading shit that goes on now started.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of crazy, right? How he started it too was he would just travel to the different tournaments.
Yeah.
And he would rent the biggest hotel room he could get, and he would put a sign down below said hospitality room for district administrators, and he would just have a bunch of free booze and just hang out with them, bullshit with them, and eventually bring up pins.
God,
Nice.
that's awesome.
Nice. Sounds like a fantastic guy, and I know he was.
Well, before we get into this tasting, why don't we have a little toast to your dad?
Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, you got to give Jacob some of this too. He needs to try
yeah.
some of this.
I'm still drinking the whatever that was.
Well,
Cheers.
Jacob,
Cheers to Jim
you
Hammer.
need to finish it.
He's drinking that Yellowstone shit.
Yellowstone,
He's
yeah.
drinking that. I think we should rename it Yellow Snow. Wow, what a finish on that.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
All right, so before we get into this,
Man, something about those wine finishes, man.
I know
I really
Yeah.
enjoy
I'm,
that.
I'm becoming a big fan.
Well, you
Dave.
know, it's funny, Dave, that you mentioned that because before Steve and I got into bourbon, we were into scotches, and almost every scotch that we loved was always finished in a sherry cask
Yep.
or I can't think what else it would have been, but all of them were finished in some other barrel.
Well, one of my favorite all-time scotches is Balvenie 14,
Oh.
and it's a Caribbean cask.
Caribbean cask, yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Scotches got into it early, like realizing, and they're one of the biggest customers of Napa Valley and Sonoma County or Sonoma, that whole area, of buying all of their barrels, and it's like enormous business for them.
yeah.
Now, what it's like for the bourbon barrels.
Yeah, well, because bourbon barrels can only be used once.
Right. So, and it has to be new American oak, and it has to be charred, but they can only use it one time, and it has to be a new barrel. Like,
Yeah.
you know, some guy's probably thinking, like,
It's
hey,
amazing these bottles
why
are so
can't I
cheap.
just use this barrel again? Well, you can, but you can't
Can't
market
call
it as bourbon.
yeah, it could just be whiskey.
You can make it Canadian Mist. Come on, baby.
Canadian Mist. The what the fuck was I gonna say? I don't even remember now.
Well, all right,
The
go
first
ahead.
scotch, the first scotch I ever had. I remember I said originally it was the gold, but then I remember that's the first one I bought myself.
Yes.
It was actually a sherry cask finish. I don't know how to say the name. Glen
Morangi.
Yeah.
Morangi.
Glen Morangi.
Oh,
The
fantastic.
sherry cask. That was the first.
That was
one
one
I
of our
ever had.
favorites.
Yes.
I mean, it's
One of
The,
that was the
um,
first one I ever had.
What was it? The Dior?
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly.
It was at the first restaurant I worked at and ran up in Pittsburgh, Tucker's Tavern, which was funny because do you know how I got the job at Country Club?
I don't. I mean,
Mark-
I
Mark-
might.
You,
Mark-
you lost a bet?
Yeah, Jesus. Mark Maternack hired me as a bartender, then asked me to become his assistant, and then one day I walked in as basically the bartender.
Right.
They fired him and made me the GM.
You know who fired him?
Steve
Anthony-
Bolger?
Was it you? Were you in there too?
Yeah.
Because Shep Bosch and Jeff Chris were in there. I remember too. So then, fast forward to I'm done with the Country Club and I'm looking for a job, and who calls me?
Mark Maternack.
Mark Maternack.
Jeez.
He's running a restaurant up in Pittsburgh called Tucker's Tavern. I'm there for 2 months. They fire Mark Maternack and make me the GM.
There's a trend here. There's a trend here, Dave.
If anybody has ever
You've
hated
obviously
me,
thrown Mark Maternack under the bus every situation you've had.
if
He
anybody
gets a
is-
job and then he throws him under the bus.
if
I want
anybody
your
has ever-
job.
I never attacked either job. I really didn't. So funny. So funny.
All right, so real quick, I just want to enlighten some people on something about Buffalo Trace because I thought it was a phenomenal thing,
I
Jeff.
thought
sent.
we were tasting Jefferson's.
We are. But real quick, so Jefferson, see, you already got me confused. Buffalo Trace has 5 mash bills. All right, I'm going to tell you about 3.
Yeah, this is good info.
Yeah, it's really good info.
You're getting a little
So-
Tommy-ish over
You're
there.
welcome.
I know. I'm sorry. I apologize. I feel like I normally sound pretty good on this, but I right now I'm feeling like I don't. All right. So Bill Mash 1, which is a traditional rye bourbon, is what they use for Buffalo Trace and the Stag.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's called just the Stag.
No,
it's like
I think it's
George
it's
T. Stag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but good to know. George T. Stag is obviously aged much longer than Buffalo
Yeah,
Trace.
hard to get, expensive.
A lot of people
Even the
think,
Stag Junior is hard to get.
That's right. Yep.
myself included, I have thought in years past, well, maybe Buffalo Trace is the leftovers from blends. Not the case.
As did I, Steve. I thought it was young Blanton's or rejected Blanton's.
Yep.
But it's
Yep.
not. You're right. It's not the same mash bill.
Not
They
the
have a
case.
similar sweetness.
Not the case.
But not the same.
Yeah.
No. So they also use that mash bill 1 for the standard Taylor small batch. Now, I've never had it. I don't know, it's
Not
probably
the E.H.
hard-
Taller small batch? E.H. Taller. We're ball doing it. E.H. Taylor small
Yeah.
batch.
We've lost our ability
Yes,
to speak
yes.
and pronounce words correctly.
Except for Jeff.
It just says
I'm
Taylor.
still doing fine.
It just says Taylor small
Since the
batch.
water
I'm sure
incident.
it probably is. All right, so Mash Bill 2, which is a higher rye bourbon, so it's got more rye in it.
This is what we like.
That is what they use for Blanton's and Elmer T. Lee.
Yeah, we got to find some Elmer T. Lee.
Yes.
I
God,
mean,
we
seriously.
gotta find that, man.
It's not cheap.
And
Beat
here,
thinks he has a bead on it, but we gotta. wait
here's
till all this
another
is over.
one that's included in that, and I've never seen it or had it. Obviously, if I haven't seen it, Rock Hill Farms.
I haven't either.
Never even heard of it.
No, I haven't either.
Yeah.
But that's part of that mash bill. Now, last, Mash Bill 3,
And not least.
and not least, which is the Weeded Mash Bill, has Weller and Pappy's Van Winkle.
And,
Yeah.
and
So, and I have heard.
Jefferson's Ocean 19.
Yes. So, and I have heard many a time, and I didn't believe it until I saw it in writing, that whatever doesn't make the Pappy's cut becomes Weller. And I was like, nah, bullshit.
Yeah,
Bullshit.
I've heard that a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently,
It's true.
that's the case.
Yeah.
I've got a Weller 12-year-old at home.
Delicious.
It's spectacular. So when I went to Louisville for one of my business things, I said, to my customer, listen, I want to go have a bourbon because I'm in Louisville. This is back in the beginning.
Yeah.
Went to this bar. It was right down the street from where you guys stayed, Steve. You know the name of it. Shit, I can't think of it. Anyway, so the girl came up to wait on me, and she said,
Bourbon Row. But it's Bourbon Row. That's what it's called.
Yeah. She said, "What do you have?" I said, "Well, I'd like to try a bourbon, but I'm new to this." And she said, "How much do you want to spend?" And I said, "I don't know, $15." She said, "Okay." She walked away immediately and brought me the Weller 12. Poured it into one of these kind of glasses, the Glencairn glasses, and I tasted it. I go, "Oh my God, it's delicious."
I bet you there's no way we get that
It's-
for 15 now.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Delicious, easy to drink. I went home, I got online, and I bought 2 bottles of Weller 12 online. And I probably paid double or triple what I should have paid, but I didn't even know at the time. All I knew is that I loved the Weller 12, and it was a bourbon that I could drink.
Yeah.
And so I got the 2 bottles and got them at home. And I didn't have any bourbon
And that's
in
the
my
black
house.
label
That's
for
the black
anybody that
label.
doesn't
Yep.
know.
I've got about half of the second bottle left, and I'm nursing it because now I know what I have. I didn't know what I had at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you try to buy Weller 12 online now, I don't even know if you can get it.
Yeah, I would love to taste that. It's something that I think runs about 70 or 75 MSRP. I'd pay 100
I think back
for
then it was 30 or 40, and
Yeah.
I think I paid 60 for it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I didn't even know what I was.
I've got a really funny story about Weller 12. You guys are going to love this. So we're Bourbon Trail last year, and we go to what's considered, I guess, for a lack of a better term, bourbon boutique store. These are guys, and we've talked about this before. They buy bourbon on the open market and they resell it, but they buy very hard to find bourbons.
Yeah.
And I've told you about this place.
Yeah.
They had all the Pappies. They had all kinds of stuff that it's just you're not going to find online, or if you find it online, you're paying ridiculous prices.
I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Jacob, can you just let her in and then just shut this door? You can leave it playing.
So
Sorry, Jacob.
we find, I'm not buying the Pappies there. It's ridiculously priced. But we found Boone County, which we did on our first tasting.
Yep. Excellent.
It was $10 more than the MSRP. So, of course, I'm buying it. And as I'm checking out at the counter, there's a basket to the left of the register.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's a good story.
in the basket, is a bunch of airplane bottles of Weller 12.
That blows me away. That they're
And
even
I'm
available.
looking at it, and I'm thinking, this can't be real, right? They can't. Like, first of all,
It's Green Label.
like, who's even making airplane bottles out of Weller 12?
Right?
What the fuck?
I'm just astounded. So I asked the guy, he's checking me out, and I ask him, I'm like, is this really the Black Label Wellers? Is this Weller's 12? He's like, oh, yeah, absolutely it is. And I can't remember the price, but it was reasonable.
It didn't really matter, did it?
No, it didn't matter. I want to say it was $4, somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe $5. All I know is I grabbed a handful, and I was like, I will take these with me. It gets better.
Didn't you buy the rest of them?
Well, wait. It gets better.
right.
So,
Sorry, I know the story.
so we get an Uber because we're going to a bar a few miles away, and I grab what I had, which was probably, we had like 5 guys with us. We get in the Uber. I give each guy a bottle, and we each, we're drinking it on the way down. And there's guys in the car, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is phenomenal." I'm like, "Yeah, it's Weller 12," and they're like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." They didn't believe that it was what it was. So we drink it on the way down to the bar. And we're all just amazed by it, how good it is. And they're like, I can't believe that we're getting it in this so easily.
In this fashion.
In this fashion, right.
I'm almost offended that you could.
Right. So we leave the bar, and we're going to go back to the hotel. And we get back in the Uber. But instead of going back to the hotel, I'm like, we got to go back to the place and get some more of that Weller 12. And so we do. I go back in and I scoop up whatever's left in that basket, buy it, and then we get back in the Uber, and he takes us to the hotel.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, but we're just like we're like kids in a candy store. I bring it back in, and it was like I was handing out like heroin to everybody in the van. They're like, "Oh my God, yes, thank you, yes, thank you."
I'm impressed that you went back. I'm really impressed. And at the same time, I'm disappointed you didn't buy every bottle they had when you were there the first time.
I wasn't thinking straight because, again, I didn't think it was
12?
true.
Weller 12? Can this be true?
Well, another weird story about ordering some stuff online this time, but you know how we got this bottle of Jefferson's Pritchard that it's excellent, right?
Excellent.
Yeah. So we got this from it being ordered online by one of the Gathering of Fools ambassadors
Really
of bourbon, Bean.
Love you, Bean. Love you.
Love you. He originally had a big order, and it somehow got screwed up. So the guy that owns the place that he ordered from, it's in Vegas. So he's like, it got screwed up. He's like, but when this is all said and done, are you willing to take a trip to Vegas? I'm like, well, for what? He goes, well, the guy told me that a lot of the stuff was out by the time they got to the order. He's pissed off about it. He can't believe it happened, but he's going to refund my money. He's going to send the stuff that we have. He's going to send the stuff that he has, and then he's going to, when the new stuff comes in, he's going to hold it and then call and ask if he's ready for it. I have his cell phone number now. And I said, oh, that's good. And we were just BSing for a little bit. And then he said, I brought up the fact that I've really been trying to find a decently priced bottle of Pappy. He goes, well, I'll tell you what. If you come to the store and I'm here, you also have my cell phone number. So if I'm not here, you can call me. I will give you a bottle of Pappy 20 at MSRP.
Oh.
Wow.
I said, yes, I will absolutely go to Vegas.
Yeah. Listen,
I can go as Dave Hammer.
No, you got to go as Bean.
Oh, shit. Hey, I'm going to have to gain some weight.
easy now. Bean listens to the podcast.
Love Bean.
Love Bean. You got to love
Seriously,
Bean.
good dude.
Love you, my man.
Good dude.
But yeah, so me and Bean, and he wants to drive. So when this is all done.
No. Listen, I'll buy you guys an airplane ticket. I'll buy you both an airplane ticket. I get to drink the Pappy when you get back with you.
Yes.
With
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
Deal.
Absolutely.
Deal.
We get to
all in
hold the
on
bottle, but you get to drink it with us.
I'm all in on
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I'm all in on that.
All right,
I
you
will
can
chip
share the
in.
cost of the airplane tickets.
All right. Sure.
That seems fair enough.
listen.
That seems fair enough.
All right. So should we talk a little bit?
MSRP? He said there his MSRP there was 120.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
What year is it?
20.
Yeah, I mean,
We
the
should
12 years, $99.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say $90. You should get the 12.
Yeah. And well, and the 12 years is the only one I've had,
If
and
you
I
can
love
get the
the
15,
12.
grab
So-
the 15. It's so good. It's very oaky. I know we all like that.
Yeah.
It's so
I feel
good.
if one of two things. If I'm working bartending again, I'll just pick it up. If not, and I can't just pick it up if I'm not in that situation, but he'll sell it to us at MSRP, I'll call you guys, cash at me or something, and we'll clean house if we can.
Here.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this Pritchard we're doing a
Yeah.
side tasting. Let's call it a side tasting.
Yeah.
So if I had to add this to my rankings tonight,
Yeah.
I think I would have 1, A, B, and C now.
Yeah.
It's that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
good.
It's really good.
Listen, you could take Henry McKenna, Widow Jane, and Jefferson's Reserve Pritchard Hill, and I'll drink any one of them. I'll tell you what. I'll give you guys your first pick, and I'll take what's left over.
Yeah.
That's how good those three are.
We have the better price point. We have the better price point on the other two.
What's the Pritchard Hill cost?
That was 70.
That's all?
Yeah, that was 70.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get 70, 60, 65, and 50.
So
When
when
we
I
got that fucking $100 21 over there, but
so
it's excellent.
I think I went in detail earlier, and I won't do it again. Previous podcast, I know.
Yes, you
I
will.
probably will.
He loves to talk. I do. He can't help himself.
I did.
That's
I
Jim
did.
Gaffigan, by the way.
I like it. I like it.
Like a lot.
So Jefferson's, which I visited, is an unbelievable distillery because it seems like
It's like basic, right?
it's so basic. It's like in a garage, and again, and
That's
I
really
know
good.
you've heard it before. That's why I know I've said it before. But here's the cool thing about it: this Pritchard Hill is very hard to get. And the day that I was there, so I wanted to get. So they, as of this date, as far as I'm aware of, they've done 2 collaborations with high-end wineries. One of which we've already documented.
Yeah, the Groth.
Groth, and
wish I
Pritchard
could
Hill
taste
is
that.
the other.
Do that on
So,
the next one.
What if
that
I'm not here?
they
will
had
be.
they had a huge display of what bottles they had available, which they had a lot of Ocean, of course, their regular
Mm-hmm.
Reserve, and Twin Oak is also one that they're really marketing heavy.
Have
now.
you had that?
I have had it.
Is it good?
It is good. It is good.
They got it in Sumbo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jefferson's Twin Oak?
Twin Oak, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And you know, there are people that are like, I don't like Jefferson's, but I feel like it's more like a feeling of people that are such purists of bourbon that they don't like what Trey Zeller's doing, and they just think, no, I'm not going to do it because
Yeah.
he's too progressive. But my point on it is they didn't have Pritchard Hill there that day, and the Groth they had on the shelf
Yeah.
was according to what they said. And again, they could have just been trying to sell it.
Right.
This is all we have, and we have no more barrels of it. So this is all you're going to get unless you get lucky and find it somewhere else. So, of course, I'm just like, I scoop that up like ice cream.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, let me buy it.
yeah.
Bean
but-
can't find it.
But this Pritchard Hill,
It's
man,
excellent.
I really like it a lot.
It's
And don't you think they're going to continue to try to merge with wine companies?
I think they have to.
I mean, it's delicious.
And how about, how much would you love if they did like Camus or,
Yeah.
Clearly Trey is a lover of really good,
High-end wines.
yes, high-end cabs.
So
especially.
whoever they add to their label is going to add to the value or the cost of,
Yeah.
of the wine, or the bourbon. But
But I like what he does. I do. The only bourbon I've had from Jefferson's, and I've had their Reserve. I've had the Groth. I've had Two
The
Oceans.
Oceans, yeah.
The only Ocean I didn't like was the 17. And that's probably the only one I've. And I'm willing to try it again, but it's the only one I haven't liked from Jefferson so far.
Yeah.
I think they make excellent bourbon, and I love what they're doing with these fucking Cabernet casks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
it's
so fucking good.
It's different.
And basically,
very
all,
different, so good,
You got to
smooth,
try to stand out,
and it's so smooth.
Yeah.
all they're doing is, I mean, they're aging the bourbon the normal way it would be, and once it gets beyond 3 or 4 years, and I can't remember which one it is,
Did you look that up, Jacob?
they take the last
How long it has to
18
be
months
aged to be a bourbon?
or 2 years, and they put them in these casks, but they don't do it until it's already considered a bourbon. Because I think
So that's 3 years, right?
yeah, because I think if they did,
Oh,
then,
it says the bourbon must be aged at least 2 years to be considered a straight bourbon.
Oh, 2 years.
Okay, so sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So that's my only point, is that he's just doing something that
People, purist.
yeah, because there's the distillation process is the same at every distillery. Every distillery is doing it the same way.
Just be aware there's a dog out there.
They've all mastered that process.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any difference there. So the only way you're going to make a difference on a bourbon is what you do on the back end, on how you maturate it, how you age it.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And this is where people can set themselves
Selves
apart.
Yeah. And I have no problem with that. As long as you meet the initial qualifications to start, then do whatever after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just you got to hit those initial qualifications.
Yep.
Otherwise, call it a whiskey. And honestly, I'm excited to try that Michter's Unblended
So am I.
because
cannot wait.
it's a whiskey, not a
So
bourbon.
when is that coming in?
They don't have it in the warehouse right now, so we're not sure. But hopefully soon, and I think it's going to be the same price as the other. Somebody did tell me recently that he considers himself a bourbon head. I don't know too much about him, but that he likes the regular Michter's bourbon.
Yeah, I almost got the rye today too.
Yeah,
I
love that for old fashions, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. And, full transparency, I've never had it just on the rocks. So I'd like to try it that way.
Actually close it, Jeff. All right. So, yeah, I would like to try the regular Michter's bourbon. I almost bought it that one day. Then you told me you prefer for old fashions. I'm still not doing old fashions yet.
Yeah.
I know I'll get there, but I'm just... My mouth is so tantalized with just regular bourbon right now that I don't know how to go somewhere else.
What's happened with you that's different with Jeff and I is that you have been. It's almost like it's a wormhole for you. So you've been sped through the
Did you
bourbon
say wormhole or wormhole?
wormhole.
Worm.
Okay, I thought you said wormhole.
It sounded like warm. It did.
I don't know. I may have said that. I've had like 18 bourbons already.
That's a huge difference.
Means wildly different things.
My point being is that in 6 months you've been sped through the bourbon process.
Yeah.
Where, and I'm not saying this in a negative way. I'm saying it in a very positive way. The point being is that your palate has grown tremendously very quickly. So if I were you and I was in your position, I would feel the same way. I'd be like, well, I'm not going to waste my time with an old fashioned. I'm going to just drink this fucking shit on the rocks or neat.
Yeah,
Because I really want the true taste of the bourbon. You're not going to get a true taste of a bourbon drinking an old fashioned. You're just not.
You're going to add bitters to it and simple syrup or sugar or whatever it is. But you're right. It's funny. I'm going to mention Paul Nevada on this podcast because Paul started drinking bourbon less than a year ago. He has progressed so rapidly. One day his wife said to him, "What the hell is happening?"
I'm worried that he's progressed too rapidly. I'm going to be
well,
honest. I'm worried.
He has recognized high-end bourbon very quickly. His taste buds are advanced. Let's just say that. And I mean, but it's funny. So now
I feel
Paul lives up near north of Pittsburgh, up near Cranberry, Mars area.
Yes.
And he is so furiously mad at the state of Pennsylvania that he can't get any alcohol. That he has found companies online that will ship to Pennsylvania at very reasonable cost. And he said to me, I'm gonna buy every single alcohol I can online because fuck the state of Pennsylvania. I'm so pissed off at how they've handled this. I mean, it's comical. But he's gone from, oh, okay, I'll try bourbon, I'll put a big ice cube in it, and I'll taste it, to completely off the charts, high-end bourbons. He'll try anything and everything to see what he likes, doesn't like. And his wife, I think he told me his wife one day looked at him and said, "What the hell's happening here?"
I have a funny story about his wife, Lisa.
Lisa, it is Lisa.
Okay.
With 2 S's.
So-
Lissa.
So Jeff and I go to a Steeler game. Awesome. You know, they're playing the Bills. It's in the box. You know, it's a box by what? You know,
I think you were my customer, right?
I was. Absolutely, because we put steel roofs on.
I'm gonna
both
That's
buildings.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
I'm gonna have to figure out
All
how
right.
to be one of your customers.
So we're in and we're doing it, and at some point, middle of the game, and I knew Lisa from before. It's not like we were strangers. She sits down next to me and she's like, "I just don't know what to think about Paul." and at that point, I had no idea where
they're married with 2 kids.
Right. I had no idea where this conversation was going. I didn't know if Paul was molesting young children.
If he was cheating.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was hanging out at playgrounds and people were getting scared about it. I had no idea.
Oh, God.
What's with this clown costume?
And then she was like, "He's just drinking so much bourbon and he just loves the bourbon and we used to drink wine and I just don't understand about the bourbon."
I get it,
Of
Paul.
course, she's saying this to the wrong person, right?
Right.
I had to set her straight right away. I'm saying you have to understand how
Sorry,
Paul
Paul.
feels. Paul is getting to understand how great bourbon is. And I told her, I said, "Listen, Lisa, I love bourbon. You're talking to the wrong person."
Well, and I feel like what you have to hit people with that is like, well, you know, it's uniquely American, right? This is American pride that
Right.
we're talking about,
Right.
here.
He's not even a year in.
No.
He started drinking bourbon last summer, and he's not even a year in. He went so far off the deep end to the high end.
So
Yep.
like, what's his collection comprised of?
Well, I've actually got a photo on my phone. I mean,
So-
he's got
He
He's got everything
actually
you
reminds
have.
me of you
he's got
because
everything you have plus.
he ramped like you literally ramped it up so fast. I was like,
Yeah,
wow,
he did the same.
he's all in. And I said the same thing about Paul when he told me. I was like, wow, he went all in right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I got
You
a
were-
picture today of 5 bourbons that showed up at his house. Let's see.
I've never dove into an alcohol the way I have with bourbon. I've just found an immediate passion
That's
for it.
exactly what Paul would say.
Yeah.
I mean, those exact words.
Yeah. Like I dug pretty deep into craft beer, but I never had this much craft beer at my house. You know what I mean? At one time.
I mean, here's a picture here. Holy shit! It's the Weller 12, Whistle Pig, Blanton's Gold.
Ooh.
Wow, that's impressive.
Dude.
And let's see, Four Roses, E.H. Taylor,
We
Old
can't talk about
Forester.
it yet. No.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone off the deep end.
Let me see.
So
Well, there's multiple pictures.
in the end of the discussion I had with his wife, Lisa, she realized, she was like, "Oh my God, this guy is absolutely no help to me."
He's not
He's
not
like-
gonna lead
he's
the
on
intervention.
Paul's
No, he's actually going to make things worse. I need to walk away from him right now. And why is he touching my shoulder and reaching towards my right breast?
Jesus.
I don't know, Paul. It was there. It was hanging there. It looked good.
It was because of the bourbon. The bourbon got him excited.
So Lisa and Paul, I mean, their thing up till that point where Paul fell in love with bourbon was, I mean, they would have a shit ton of wine in their house, and
Yeah.
you know,
Shit ton.
I mean, shit ton. And I mean, and good wine too. You know, they had the Ambazetta and the Anairs and the Cambus's and
You know what wine I got to have?
what?
Well, Granger. Is that what it's called? Granger.
Oh, you mean at that Capito brought in?
Yeah, Granger, $750 a bottle.
Yeah.
It's I think
Wait,
Shiraz.
which Capito?
No, it
It
was,
was Chuck Capito that brought it.
As long as it wasn't the other one.
easy. He may listen to this. Easy.
Hey,
So,
listen, we're battling him for bourbon. That's the line has been drawn.
It was same maker as the Boxer, and
Oh, okay. The Shiraz.
yes.
Yeah, it's a Shiraz. He brought it in. I was about to take a sip of it. This is the same day I got to. He brought in that in Pappy 12.
Oh,
I freaked out
Wow.
over the Pappy 12, obviously.
I bet.
Sent me photos of both, like I'm supposed to be happy for him.
I
Like, look what I'm getting ready to try. I'm like,
I got to try Pappy 12 like literally like maybe 1 month into me being
Like a
into bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, so I saw him walk in.
Premature ejaculation.
Oh man, listen, that's exactly what happened too. I saw him walk in. He's got this bag, and I'm like, I wonder what the fuck is in that bag. It's his brother Robert's birthday, and I'm like, I wonder what's in that bag. And then I see him pull it out. And I'm like, that's Pappy 12. What the fuck? I'm behind the bar like a little puppy, like, oh my god, what the fuck is going on? And then he says to the two owners, he says, "Get yourselves a glass." I'm like, they get a glass? Can I get a glass? I'm not saying that though. That's what I'm
It's
thinking
Jim
in my head.
Gaffigan having a glass.
And I'm like, oh my god, like, come on, man. And then he goes, oh, you know what? Get Dave a glass too. I'm like, I get a glass? I'm freaking out behind there. And then so I get it, and it's the first bourbon I ever drank neat, and I loved it, obviously. And I took the first sip, and I was like, oh my god, it is worth everything that people are saying. It's that good. It's so smooth. It's got a good oakiness to it. It's amazing.
But keep in mind, it's a wheated bourbon.
Yeah. So then he says, so then the owner, I'm the only one that knows how to change over the sound that plays in there from the TV to the music. And we were listening to TV. He's like, hey, go change over to the music. And I'm slowly sipping this Pappy. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem. And I went to sit down. I'm like, I can't set this down. Like,
Somebody might take it.
What if somebody walks up and takes it? Or even worse, somebody goes, oh, here's a dirty glass and pours it in the drain. Yeah. I'm like,
yep.
And so now Anthony, the owner, is laughing at me because I'm literally spazzing out behind there, trying to figure out what to do with this bourbon. I hide it behind the bar Bibles.
Jesus.
And go
Where was
change
this
it.
at?
This is at Garden Grill.
Okay.
So then, after that, then I'm opening up all their wines, and the Granger cork was a problem. It was hard to get out, so I had to finesse it. And then he gives me some, and I'm about to take a sip, and he goes, him and Robert are talking, and he's like, yeah, I paid $750 for that. And I was like, hold on. Like, let me appreciate this a little more.
Yeah.
let me slow down. I was just going to like throw it in my mouth. And I can tell you that I didn't understand.
What's this?
No, toast you.
I didn't understand what people meant when I
For a victory tomorrow. Go ahead.
I didn't understand what people meant when they said, what is it, layers or whatever.
Yes.
I didn't understand the complexity of wine really till I tasted that. Actually, Mary asked me. She goes, I think it was John. He asked me like, so is it really that much difference between that and a $40 bottle? And I said, I would always have been the person that said there isn't a difference. That's incorrect.
There is.
There was a very
yeah.
big difference.
Yeah.
A very big difference.
There is, and I think you can correlate that, and I'm glad you brought that story up because you can say the exact same thing for bourbon. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
That I mean, we tried a wide array of bourbons. Granted, you would say the Yellowstone would be maybe like our Sutter Home, or
Yeah.
a step up from that. Compared to the
I mean,
other
if you want to
bourbons that we
insult
had.
Sutter Home, sure, go ahead.
Wow.
I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm just kidding.
But
He wanted you to go barefoot.
yeah,
Oh, my God.
there's nothing like, and I love the fact that you brought that story up, Dave, because Jeff and I had a similar story where we had an opportunity to have Pappy, and I thought it was 23.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 23.
So of course, I don't remember how the call went out. Here's how I want to think I remember it.
I remember.
It was like a bat signal that went out to my home. from a friend of mine that will go unnamed that said, we're going to so-and-so's house tonight. He has Pappy's 23.
Here's how it really happened.
Would you like to come? And after I came, then I went. If that makes any sense.
How it really happened was I was sitting in a stag room one day with Dude Kessler, and we were talking about bourbon. Randomly talking about bourbon. He said, "Oh, do you like bourbon?" I said, "Yeah, I do."
Could there be a nicer dude that ended up with all the money?
He's
No.
awesome.
He's so great.
There's not a nicer dude.
Listen,
So
There's
great.
not a more
I
generous
can't say,
dude.
I can't say enough good things
Period.
about him.
Yeah.
Can't.
Can't
He's
say.
basically a neighbor. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, he's right over there.
Yeah.
So he said, he goes, "Hey, I've got a bottle of Pappy 23-year-old." He goes, "And I don't really drink bourbon. I like to share it." And I was like, "Daddy."
He said, "No, dude."
He went. I think his mouth immediately went to his nipple, and then he was like, "What are you doing? What are you trying to suck my nipple for?"
I said, "Dude, I love bourbon. Steve and I drink a lot of bourbon. We love it. If you'd like to get together, let me know." He goes, "I will." And son of a bitch, he did.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, he invited 30 other guys. And I'm like, what the fuck? This isn't a gangbang.
So wait.
This was supposed to be our bourbon.
Yeah. We're
So
supposed
wait.
to finish this bottle with 3 of us.
So wait, we went there together. We had no idea what we were getting into.
And
We
we were
went
running-
there together.
And we were running late.
Yeah.
But it was like, I think there was a board meeting that night or something. But anyway, the party was like at 7. And I said, "Dude, I can't be there till 8. Son of a bitch, if Steve and I don't walk in at 8 o'clock, and he's like, he's waving us over. He's like, he holds a bottle of 23-year-old Pappy up. He goes, "I saved this for you guys."
Yeah.
And I mean, there was 2 generous pours
Yeah.
in that bottle.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget that he said, "I saved this for
Yeah.
you guys."
That's awesome. He's
I mean,
such a
it
good
was
guy.
yeah.
He is such a
Phenomenal.
good guy.
That party he used to throw. You ever been to one of his parties that he used to throw? He used to throw this party. He would have whoever wanted to come could come. He would have like 2 mechanical bowls. There'd be
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 Dean Martin impersonators. There'd be 3 bars, and it was incredible. And just anybody could come. But he ended up stopping it because
Someone got hurt on the mechanical,
bull.
Yeah.
And they tried to like do something about it.
Like,
Are you fucking kidding me, man? This guy's doing an awesome thing. Can you just let this fucking be?
right. Yeah. Listen, you got on the mechanical bull. It was your decision.
Yeah.
Own it.
Right. That's it. Period.
Wow.
So, just a side note about
So
this
there's more
story.
to this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
shit.
more to the story.
Oh, God.
So he had this unbelievable wine that was there. Schrader. Schrader goes for about $200 a bottle. Would you say?
A little more than that.
Yeah.
Anywhere from $275 to $450.
Just an unbelievable
Depends
cab,
on the vineyard.
Yeah.
and so we got our taste of the Pappy 23. You know, we're excited, and then he was like, "Oh, but I got this wine," and then of course we're like, "Wine, like meerkats, wine."
Yeah.
So there's 3 bottles in a wooden box. So you had all these wooden boxes that were beautiful, and there's 3 bottles per box, and there's a bunch of them opened,
Yeah.
and we're drinking it. It's like, holy shit! I mean, we've had some great wine.
Yeah.
This was the best wine I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
It was outstanding. Come to find out, he spent like $25,000 just for the wine he bought for that night.
For that night.
Jesus.
I mean, and like I said, it's anywhere from $275 to $500 a bottle, and he's got these 3 bottle boxes. So Steve and I drink like we're going to the electric chair. I mean, like we're gonna
This
get
is the
killed
last
tomorrow.
night.
It's my last night.
It's your last
I haven't
meal.
even ordered my meal yet, but I'll take this wine, and I'll take as much as that.
Forget the food.
So we're
Bring
drinking,
the wine.
We're drinking, and at the end of the night, it's coming near the end. You know, everybody knows it's the end of the night. And Steve says, "Hey, dude, you mind if we open one more box?" And of course, dude's like, No, go ahead, open it up. We pry the box open. There's 3 more there's another $1,000 worth of wine. We're like, can somebody give us a corkscrew? I mean, it was the most delicious bourbon, the most delicious wine.
I'll never forget driving home that night, and I think I drove, but I'm not sure. You may have. Who cares? But
I don't know who drove.
We're driving home that night, and we're talking on that drive home about how we'll never, ever be able to duplicate
that night,
the evening that we had.
No.
And I was like, Jeff's like, do you realize the wine we just had? And I'm looking at him like, do you realize the bourbon we just had? And we're going back and forth talking about it. It was crazy.
I mean, let's not even talk about the cigars that were available to us. I know I had one. I don't even remember what I had, but I mean, my God, what a night.
I know a story about him. I feel like he needs to come on the podcast at some point.
Oh, for sure.
Dude,
yeah. But I know a story about him with cigars. So you guys know DeAlbert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Doesn't drink, but loves
JoJo?
cigars. Yeah, loves cigars. So he's in Garden Grove one day. First of all, JoJo is an awesome guy himself. He's super friendly.
Love JoJo.
Such a great guy. But he's telling me a story about how dude got really into cigars. He bought all these cigars. Like, who knows how much money worth of cigars. He actually threw out a number. I can't remember what it was. And he says, and then one day, he just decided that he was done smoking cigars and threw them all away. He said, JoJo said, I got into the dumpster.
Dumpster diving.
He said he walked away, and I was just like, well, fuck. He said, I just got in there and started grabbing cigars.
No kidding.
I think I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I would have.
Absolutely.
For sure.
You know what kind of class those cigars were.
Yeah, and they're not going to spoil.
No.
I mean, being in a dumpster for a few hours is not.
Yeah, it's at the end of the world.
No.
Actually, they might
Take them home, put them in a humidor.
I was going to say, they actually might contain a little bit of moisture right in there in the dumpster. But yeah, he said he just threw them all away. He said just an ungodly amount of cigars.
It really does
Funny,
surprise me.
quick story about...
So a couple weeks later, he bought more cigars.
About dudes, like, absolute just awesomeness. So it would be about 2 years ago. My daughter is on homecoming court, which...
Yeah, it's a good story.
It's awesome. Awesome. And I was hoping she would get on it. Obviously, she was wanting to get on it. She gets on it. And the big thing is once, a girl gets on homecoming court, and it's been going on for a while, you got to get a convertible. Well, I don't have a convertible.
Because who does?
Right. I don't.
I
know that.
Wait, guess who does?
So,
Dude.
Ding, 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 ding.
So dude has two, right? He has one that's an automatic and one that's a stick.
Yeah.
So the automatic, I'm like, yeah, it's perfect. And I'm talking to him at the club. We're discussing it. And I'm like, listen, automatic's fine. I know how to drive a stick. It had been a while. My first car growing up was a stick. So I know how to drive a stick. So when I tell my daughter about what color the car was, she's like, oh, no, that's not going to work with my dress. Can't work. That's going to clash with my dress. There's no chance. What's the other color? I'm like, hold on. Do you see what I'm trying to do here?
Yeah, I'm trying to drive this car.
Yeah. And I said, the other one's white. And she was like, perfect. So, dude, God bless him. We meet one day at the club. And, again, it's not like I'm a dumbass. I know how to drive a stick. But we're talking about a Corvette here.
Yeah.
It's a lot of power.
427.
It's a different, when I had one, I had a Toyota Celica.
Yeah.
A little bit different. So we go around, we spin it around. We go down Lover's Lane connector. And we turn around, and he's like, all right, open it up. And so I go up there, and I open the son of a bitch up, and I swear to God, I felt like we weren't even on the ground.
Airborne.
we pull in the country club parking lot. He's like, I think you got it.
Jesus.
Here's the problem. Here's where the story gets funny. So when you're in this parade where your daughter's got her dress draped all over the back end of the Corvette,
Yeah.
you're going like 3 miles per hour.
You're
Well,
not, you're not
anybody
racing up the Lover's Lane connector at 85 miles an hour.
Anybody that knows anything about cars, that's a really hard thing to do when you're driving a stick.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in one, and you're like, then you got to go 2, but you can never go to 3,
Right.
Because you're not going fast enough.
Yeah.
Then you got to back down to 1. I stalled out like 7 times.
I'll tell you what I would have loved if you would have just revved the engine like the whole parade.
Yeah. And of course we had the best car by far.
Yeah.
Not
And
even
people
close.
were like in the parade, they were like, "Oh my god, I love your car." And meanwhile, I'm going like this.
Hey, dude, sorry about your fucking transmission.
I told him when I met him the next day, I said, "Listen, I'm pretty sure I burned your clutch completely out. I'm sorry."
My bad. Well, hey, guys, we've been going for almost 3 hours. I think that's a good story to end on. Shout out to Dude. Jeff, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
I think-
I enjoyed myself.
It's awesome.
We had a great time. We had a lot of good fucking bourbon. I highly recommend Widow Jane to everybody because it's the first time I tasted it. I also recommend the Pritchard Cab Jefferson Reserve. So other than that, anybody got anything to add?
Just really appreciate the time and thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's great to be here with you guys. I had a good time, and thanks for having me. Thanks for Jacob.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, Jacob.
Jacob, thank you.
And Jeff, you'll be back for the Jefferson tasting.
Yeah, here's my money.
All right. Well, this is the Gathering of Fools. We're out. Love you guys.